Good evening, everybody. It's round number 11 of this year's ASR Supercars Championship, and they can be summed up in 3 words. It's Bathurst, baby. That's the 3 words that you need to know about tonight. It's the one that everybody wants to win. It's returning to a format that hasn't arrived in ASR Supercars since the 2018 season, when it was a single driver event. So we're going back to the single driver format after a handful of years spent either in Enduro Cup on its own right or a dual driver Enduro as part of the regular season. It's now a single 300-kilometre race around Mount Panorama, and as I welcome Benjamin Roach to the commentary box for this one. Roddy, for me, this feels a bit like an eternity because I missed the last round at the Bend Motorsport Park, so there's a fair bit of things to digest, but, well, let's celebrate what it is. It is the mountain, and it is the one that everybody wants to get their hands on, winning that little trophy.
Absolutely. Good evening to yourself, Nether, and everyone watching along at home, or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. And yeah, it's been that long since the last broadcast that I've found myself this week forgetting how to English, such as the lack of use of words I've had recently. But no, good to have the broadcast back on, and obviously we're back for this and also the final round in a few weeks' time. And a few changes have popped up since we last broadcasted. A long-time former driver has returned to the series, and there's just going to be 2 rounds for him this year, but you know, potentially you could see a full-time return for him next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Lewis Wedding is one of those who's appeared with his own car for a couple of rounds, which is great to see. And it's good to see that we have a very, very healthy field tonight as well. You know, probably one of the healthiest fields we've had all season in terms of numbers. We've got 20 drivers that have been in the server tonight, 20 going to take to the race. 10 of them are about to go for a top 10 shootout. Now, this is something that is a little bit unique in ASR Supercars because for many, many years, as a lot of people have come to realise, the shootout has been encompassed following qualifying on a particular night, but because of the change in proceedings, things being so long, it's quite simply too much to fit into one night. So what has taken place is, for the very first time, we actually went into pre-qualifying during the week and set a number of drivers, and basically gave everybody the opportunity to say, hey, go out there. You've got a number of laps to do it. Let's see how you go. And we have ended up with a top 10 drivers to partake in the shootout. So there will be no qualifying tonight. That's all done and dusted. The shootout is the first thing you're going to see up on the other side of the track overview, and then it'll be straight into warm-up and the race. So don't adjust your screens. You are seeing something correct. This is just something that's a little bit unique and something that's a little bit different this year in ASR Supercars, purely because of the time it takes to get through a 300-kilometre race. It's nearly 2 hours. So to put it bluntly, let's just get straight into it. Let's have a look at this place. It is round number 11 of 12 rounds. So just this race and 2 more races to go in the season, which are in Adelaide. And as we hone in on the central area of New South Wales and then head just to the outskirts of Bathurst, and you get to this 6.213 kilometre circuit, which is steeped in history, Roadie. 23 corners, and it's seen a lot of things happen, not just in real life, but in ASR Supercars too.
Absolutely. I think a particular memory of mine, I think immortalised by a good screenshot, is of a couple of cars way back in 2019, one of our very first races here, getting, I think, 2 wheels airborne and nearly rolling across the top. And actually we had a roll over in our scratch race last week, week and a bit ago now. But yeah, really good track, not only IRL obviously, but for ASR, a lot of good races have happened here in the past. This looks like it's going to be another good one as well. I know there are some drivers that, not unlike last year, aren't enjoying necessarily the way their cars are handling this place. But looking at some of the times on the board, there is just really good runners out there. And with a few wild cards in the field, obviously mentioned Lewis Wedding, Zach Brown's in tonight, Brennan Ross is in tonight, who obviously has been filling in a few instances. We've also got Aidan Williams returning for, I think, the first time in a couple of rounds as well. Really put a cut amongst the pigeons and should produce some really good racing.
Yep, I tend to agree. It is one of those circuits that it's going to be something you have to build into over the course of the week leading up to it. You've got to spend the time to practice it, because sometimes you get a bit of ring rust at a place like this because of how close the walls are at the majority of the circuit, especially basically from the time you get to turn 2 all the way till you get to the DeForest Elbow at turn 18. Basically the walls are super close. There's no margin for error, so you really do need to practice that top section of the circuit all the way, well, pretty much the majority of everything, sans the straights. So it is a tricky little beast to get hold of. So we're not too far away from going into the shootout, as we said. So there are 10 drivers that were the top 10 from pre-qualifying. I think there was, how many drivers actually contested it? I believe there was 18 drivers that attempted to set a time in the pre-qual server, which is great. Great participation. A big thank you to everybody that actually gave a chance to try and get through in the shootout, or to the shootout, which is about to get underway. First driver going out is Luke Speck, the SES Shogun number 13 Camaro. So he managed to get in by the skin of his teeth, I think we can probably call this roadie. There was less than a tenth of a second between him in 10th place and Damon McDonald in 11th. That's how tight it was. So a 207.600 for Speck versus a 207.696 for McDonald. So very close. For the last spot inside the 10, and there were a few people that actually jumped into the top 10 like literally within the last hour, with pre-qualifying set to close at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, and a few people jumped in there and knocked a few other people that were in the 10 out.
Yeah, I haven't chatted to Specky particularly last night, actually, just doing some testing of my own. And yeah, at that point I think he was sitting 8th in the standings and was a little concerned given the number of guys still yet to come out and have a run, and he really wasn't finding the pace that he was able to pull out in the practice session. But yeah, he managed to do enough to not only keep himself in the 10, but also knock Damon McDonald out in the process. And I think I was there in the VC in the moment where they first had interactions after that instance had happened, and Damon's been very keen to get any taste of a shootout. I think actually Specky ran into a shootout style dock that he's planning on using and probably is using right now. And the second he mentioned what it was capable of, Damon's like, "Mine, I need it, give me it." He's like, "But you're not shooting a shootout. Doesn't matter, I need it." So Damon's very, I think, unhappy that he's been knocked out. But he's got very good pace. He's been able to prove that, and he's starting 11th. He's in a good spot. And look, the way some of this goes, you know, might be a good spot in 11, depending on how the 10 shakes out.
Absolutely. He's on his way down to the final corner now. So this will be an interesting start to proceedings. So, as we said, he was the first man. He's the first man to go around in the shootout, actually with the new livery this weekend, and of course, very clean dash, I can say there. No digital distractions or imagery distractions on the inside of the number 13 tonight. So this is all about keeping your eyes focused on the road, not wanting to have a look at anything untoward sitting in the car. It's just the steering wheel, the shift lights across the top, and the road in front of you. And he is now on his way. So up
yeah,
and
very
over.
pared back. Very pared back experience for Specky there, and he's going to need it to run events further in this session.
Well, let's see how he goes.
Now up in turn 2.
So let's see how he goes. 207.600 is the time that you want to try and get close to in the shootout, because that's what you did to get in. We've seen time and time again, some drivers get within a tenth or two, and usually that's pretty acceptable. But those that go over and above and really lay it all on the line, they actually do get a huge benefit in case sometimes they actually will beat their best time, if not match it. So Specky pretty clean so far through the sector. He's leaving a little bit of margin on the table in a couple of spots here, but this is one of those ones where you stand everything to gain if everybody ahead of you or drivers ahead of you, as it say that, you lose the mirror. He's gotten a bit close there, and he's crossed it all up, and he's into the fence like Davey Reynolds was almost a few years ago at Bathurst. So just as we were talking about it, he inevitably bowled wide at Skyline, clipped the inside of the fence, and in fact I think that car doesn't actually want to turn. So
yeah, potentially sitting on a puncture, or just the way that went through the elbow there. not driving terribly well there. I think he's trying to maybe, well, I don't know. He's very recognised that he's not going to get a quick lap in here.
He actually hasn't registered a second.
Across the board.
Hasn't even registered a second sector time either. So at the time is actually deleted. It's off the board. So I would have said, I suspect what's happened is he
a cut.
It'd be a cut across the top. Yeah. So as he hit the inside of Skyline, what's happened is he's fed him wide and onto the outskirts, which normally triggers a shortcut anyway. And I dare say he will be he'll be across the line, but it will register no time. I would not be surprised to see no time coming up for the number 13, and indeed it is no time. So that locks him into 10th place, albeit barring somebody else doing a worse job than he. So if someone absolutely fences it, they will go behind him in the top 10. So bit of a disastrous start there for the shootout. One car not registering a time. And now on to the, I guess we can say, an interesting livery choice for this weekend. This is a legitimate sponsor, actually, in real life, because this actually is an energy drink, I believe, and it does exist. It's a harking back to the Top Gear days where they actually put this sort of stuff out there as a bit of a meme or a bit of a fun thing during the news. And, well, it's finally found its way onto a Gen 3 supercar in ASR, and with the team that's decided to do it, Roadie, why am I not surprised?
It's not a surprise at all. It's a sponsor that I think I first got introduced to in Forza and thought this has to be someone's mockery. They think this can't be real. But no, they're a real company, and look, I suppose you definitely got a good way to market yourself with a name like that, but also very brave to pick a name like that in the current climate. But does not really matter to Ryan. He's out there putting a lap in. A very good looking car as well, with nice pink and black highlights to it. Very, very clean white livery, and he will be the first one to set a time that we can actually look at through that first sector, the 53.8, so that's not too bad. Yeah,
so he was actually about half a tenth down on what Spec did in Sector 1, just looking at the numbers that are on the screen at the moment. So this is where Spec caused a little bit of chaos for himself. That's a much cleaner effort for Ryan Smith heading down the mountain now. And probably could have been got the inside there at the dipper. I was about to say he could have been a little bit further to the right-hand side. He narrowed up that entrance quite badly, and now is sort of battling to get it back online for down the hill. So what's happened there? So he has registered a second sector split. It's they're waiting for the time to flash up here on the timing. It's a 36.1. So not setting the world on fire there in Sector 2. But of course, he did have a major moment there coming down the dipper. A bit narrow on the approach, and then fed himself into the fence. Not as bad as Spec did, though. He will at this stage look set to complete a lap. No curb at the chase. So he continues on down to Murray's now for the big hard stop before you turn left and then head out onto the main straight. A 207.3 to get in. It's a 208.8 for his final effort in qualifying. So into the shootout he goes there. So another one through, and this time over to Brenton Foley, who was one of the drivers, Roadie, qualifying late this afternoon, and in fact he, first and foremost, I think it was the one that knocked Brandon Dostal out, and then it was Ryan Smith that came along and he knocked Damon McDonald out.
Yeah, a few very late movers there. I know Foley, unlike a few drivers today, with a little less time to play with than they thought they had for tonight, but he did manage to get in just in time to get his lap in, which is what's put him into the 10, and we're going to see now who goes in the 10. Bit of a screw there as it comes through into 2.
Yep, a little bit of his moment there as he gained already for Foley in Sector 1. So already looking pretty handy, nice and clean across the top through Metal Grate. Now cresting the top of the mountain and then down through Skyline. How clean is he? Can he get the dipper right? Because this is where Smith made a bit of a moment, and yep, that's a little bit better, a little bit further to the right, opened up the angle a little bit nicely, scoots out the other side, past the Boost Mobile signage, and now onto the CRE elbow.
Yeah, very nice run out to complete the run across the top, and we're going to get a Sector 2 time. That's very good. He's 1.5 seconds to the good over Ryan Smith. As a result of that sector, he's not only pulled clear of the 36s, he's almost quicker than 35.04 through that second sector.
Yeah, very nice job. And of course, a lot of that will be because Smith did have that little error across the top at the dipper as well, which curtailed his run, wiped a bit of speed off the number 60 Ford Mustang. So Foley will have picked up quite a large chunk of time purely on there. So this is really probably the truly representative number that we will get a first reference at. So 207.239 to get in for Brenton Foley. This will be in the 7s as well to 7.1. He's actually gone faster than what he did to get into the shootout. So a very nice job for Brenton Foley. He will definitely be happy with that.
Yeah, that was a very good run by Foley. Given the struggles we saw, and maybe it's a setup thing for some of the guys who ran early, but also we are running the shootout on the hard tyres. We are racing tonight on the hard tyres, and we have seen this season the tyres take a little longer than the softs, obviously, to get up to temperature and get into an off-road window.
Yep.
So maybe for Foley, he took the time where the other two didn't to get the car set up properly.
Ethan Knight, SE, or Luke McHugh racing by SES, the number 77. Haven't seen a lot of him this year. There's been some conflicting things in life for him. But good to have him back out there. It's usually one of these cases, isn't it, Roddy, that everybody, even though that you've got a lot of things going on in life, everybody seems to turn up for Bathurst.
They do, yeah. It's a popular track. The last time we saw this car was actually at the last round with Jacob Palfrey driving it, but the last time we saw Ethan was back at the Gold Coast in round 2.
Yeah, so that just goes to show you how long it's been between drinks for Ethan Knight. So back in the field, of course, he's been doing same sort of thing applied with him this year in the development series as well, because he was doing double duty along the way. Had a bit of a wiggle there coming out of Griffin, so just couldn't get that power down. Again, wondering whether that's a second gear or third gear problem, picking one gear over another and then causing the rear end of that number 77 to wag its tail as he tried to apply the power. What does the sector split say? And in actual fact, I think just, as he wipes the mirror there at Metal Great and almost and again at Reed Park as he comes down now towards across the top through McPhillamy Park and into Skyline. I think a lot of that, just struggling to get that power down out of turn 2, definitely had hurt him trying to get up the mountain.
Yeah, if there's anything positive to pull from the couple of times he's snagged the wall so far, they are in controlled efforts. He is getting there because he's trying to get to the apex and actually overturns the car, as opposed to what we've seen from a couple of drivers where they get thrown off of the walls as a result of a mistake or a bit of car control issue, but it still hasn't brought it under much for him. He is done a second on Foley, but Foley was the first to get a really impressive run across the top, and potentially he is running under LMR with a separate team to SES, but I believe they do actually collaborate on this stuff this year. If it's the same issue with the other two cars, maybe it's a setup just doesn't allow the tyres to get up to temp early enough in the lap to really make a difference. Yeah,
perhaps not. So at least it's apart from that little moment coming out of turn 2 and a little bit of stuff going across the top of the mountain, it's been a relatively clean lap, so at least there'll be a time on the board. So all the time that this is going on, for those that have actually set a half-decent lap, it's improving their position. So Foley now gains a spot in the shootout as Ethan Knight slots into second place there with a 2:08. What do you give there? A 2:08.6.
Yeah, he's 2 tenths quicker than Ryan Smith. So he has at least kept that position over Ryan.
Yeah, he has. So he's at least gained one. He's only lost the one spot as it stands right now. So not a bad situation to be in. And I'll tell you what, we are sort of ripping through this shootout pretty quickly, aren't we? We're actually up to Noah Turra now, who's in the number 26, and he's actually still got a fair old way to go on his outlap. So he's spent a fair bit of time actually trying to get some energy into that car.
Yeah, there's a few guys. I know I saw Steele Allison running what looked like shootout sims earlier in practice, and he was getting pretty aggressive and pretty slow with his outlap as well. The big surprise, I think, for me is I think this is the lowest we've seen Turra in a shootout this year. Normally he's at the back. Normally he's amongst the last 3. It's pretty early to see him. I've
actually just had a bit of a look at something here, and in actual fact, it was Fraser Clegg who was meant to go out. So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of a problem with him at the moment. So that explains it, because I was looking at it thinking, hang on a minute, I thought Noah Turra was actually inside the top 5, and I was right. So we're just waiting to see what's going on there with Fraser Clegg. Perhaps maybe something not quite right in his stable. Either way, Noah Turra is on the move here. and heading up Mountain Straight. So for him to get in, he did a 2:06.7. So he was the second of the drivers that actually, actually out of all the drivers that did a 6, there was 5 of them. And he was the fourth slowest out of all of them. He was only a 10th, he was a 10th quicker than Fraser Clegg to get in. So let's see what he can do. So there's your target, 6.7 for Turra. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in pit lane with the Fraser Clegg machine. But at this stage, doesn't look like he's going anywhere. He's into PBF by SES 00, so waiting to see what's happening on that side of the stable. We're waiting to see a sector split, and we've got one, and it's 1 3/4 tenths pretty handily over Foley, but he has wiped the mirror on the outside of the fence like a few drivers have done already. So a couple of limits already being pushed here in the shootout. It's a couple of drivers not quite in win it or bin it mentality just yet, but they are getting a little bit jiggy with the walls.
Yeah, I think there's a few drivers that are going to start to treat this sort of like a Q2 session as we go. And I think Noah is one actually given sort of how early, I know obviously he's meant to be top 5, but again, sort of how early he is in this shootout. But it's been a pretty good run. There we go, he's proved another 10th as well over Foley, 10th and a half, I think, in that second sector. It probably comes down to just that sort of prep time in the early lap as what he could get into it. But that's a lot of the cars we've seen. Definitely almost an unremarkable way of turning pace. It doesn't necessarily look all that exciting for the most part, but it's clearly doing the job.
Down to the chase now, just trying to keep a few tabs on a couple of things as to what's going on as Turra comes under the Beyond Blue Bridge opposite the Ridges Hotel and now down to Murray's Corner. You've already got a big hard stop at the chase, and then your brakes get another huge thermal shock going through them, and a 7 flat for Turra. So he actually lost a little bit of time in Sector 3, so he had a good margin coming out of Forest Elbow, but then he lost nearly 2 tenths of it coming into the last sector. So lucky to get away with that one, but he ends up ahead of Foley in the running order for the moment, so he maintains his place. As we move to the AF Racing number 95 of Aidan Williams.
Yeah, here's another driver that we haven't seen too much of. I think it would be, he did pop up at Townsville, but prior to that we'd last seen him at SMP, so another one of the 2-round drivers like Ethan Knight.
Yeah, certainly is. I know he's been dovetailing a lot of real-life racing commitments in the Legend cars as part of the AASA bill. I think last time out they were racing at Malala Motorsport Park a couple of weeks ago. So he's been all over the country doing those sorts of things, and good on him. I think he's picked up a couple of podiums and I think even a couple of wins throughout the season as well. So a real-life racer in his own right. And he has shown on occasion that he can mix it with the front runners. Oh, wow. Big lock-up and rubbing the mirror on the bow repairs wall quite early in the lap. We hadn't seen it that early in the lap at the cutting.
Yeah, it carried a bit more speed there than a few cars before him. Most of them, I think, were running up to the end of third and revving out in third, whereas Aidan shipped up to fourth, but I think he got a little bit carried away with the speed he was carrying there, and that's probably the bulk of his loss to Noah there. He did obviously qualify quicker than Noah, so he is capable of doing of making this time up, but it's going to be a bit of work from here.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, he's already half a second down in Sector 1, so that lock-up heading up to the cutting seems to be pretty costly at this stage. Can he recover any of it back heading down the mountain? Relatively clean from Skyline all the way down to the elbow, and as he turns left, applies the power, and heads down the hill, has he gained any of it back? No, he hasn't. He's lost about another half a tenth.
Yeah, it's not quite going that way. It's a similar thing with now where the car looked really sort of unremarkable pace. It looked like it maybe was struggling for a little bit of turn at points, but pretty well set up car otherwise. But yeah, probably just the start of that lap, and it's a hard one to try and get the momentum back and get yourself back into the headspace after a knock that early. At
this stage, it looks like he's going to, he's gone a little bit deep there at the chase too. I was about to say he's tracking, going to be in behind Brenton Foley, but ahead of Ethan Knight. So he needs to keep the momentum up here. He can't afford to bleed much more time. He should be okay, though, to slot into where I just said he was going to do so, and he does at an 8.1. So for him, that's actually, it's about a second and a half nearly slower than what he actually did to get into the shootout. So be a bit disappointed with that one. Definitely the early hit on the wall on the approach up to the cutting definitely had an impact there.
Yeah. Next one out is Mitchell Silas, and he was actually running pretty close up behind Aiden on his lap there, but he did actually build the gap up, so that would be part of that tyre warming that I've been talking about. And he was one, as I mentioned, that was doing a bit of an aggressive shootout simulation in qualifying, or in practice. So I'd hope to see some good pace from him.
I would hope so too, as he heads up the hill. So for him, as we always like, Mitchell Steele Allison with a 206.641. He was about a half a tenth quicker than the car that we just saw, Aiden Williams. So into turn number 2, fighting a little bit of understeer there through turn 2, and it fed him a little bit wide. He had to go out and over the curb just next door to the Penrite signage. Cautious approach to the cutting, definitely not getting as close to the walls as Aiden Williams was, and now rising up the hill, about to come up under the bridge. A little bit of a slide there if you don't control it well, and now down to the first sector split, and he's behind Noah Turra, and also at this stage behind Brenton Foley. So not a good start to the lap, but is this building into something? Is he just trying to get through that really difficult section, or had to catch it? There was an oversteer moment there coming into McPhillamy Park, so he had to put some opposite lock on there. A little bit of a lock coming down the hill here, but he's pushing all the angles, trying to make up that lost time. He'll have the readout on the dash. What does the time say at the exit of the elbow?
Ended up nicely out of the elbow. Another mirror cap gone there as well. The Lace have seen one go, and that was, he's brought it back a little bit. He's still in the window. Basically, I think he matched them across the top. Yeah,
I think so. Now remember, Noah lost a bit of time coming down through sector 3 as well, and we're not quite sure where he actually lost that time, but we're about to find out from his stage where he fits into this equation. Coming into the chase. Not a bad run through there. Just sits it up. A little bit of dirt on the outside of the second to last corner. So tracking rather nicely at the moment. As we said, he's going to probably fit in, probably behind Foley and Turra if he keeps this up. Has he been able to recover any of it back? He recovers a lot of it back. He's into the 6s, so a 6.9. So he pulls a bit of a rabbit out of a hat there and jumps above the two of them. So very, very impressive last sector for Mitchell Steele Allison. Now, again, another situation. This is something I wasn't expecting to see either. Kurt Stenberg was the fastest qualifier, but there was meant to be another driver out before him. There was meant to be Will Devonish, and of course we had the situation with Fraser Clegg, so we're not quite sure what's going on with the top 10 at the moment. At this stage, it might actually be a top 8 with the others due to start 9th and 10th. We definitely do not know what's going on there. We're going to endeavour to bring you an update when we find out what's happening, but for the moment, it is the current incumbent series champion who is on the march up Mountain Straight, and he was the only driver in the 5s. It was a 5-4 for Kurt Stenberg that got him into the shootout. He had a massive margin, a full second on the field, and in an impressive pre-qualifying situation for him. Can he repeat that tonight?
Absolutely, yeah. He's really set a statement in qualifying, being a second clear of the field. Slightly in different conditions into the shootout, so that might have an impact on the performance. That said, I don't think he's going to be backing off at all, and that car's looking very lively as he starts to run across the top, and already he's up by 6 tenths.
Yeah, he's got it. He's almost got one hand on that pole position already. What an impressive start to the lap here. Little lock up as he approaches and turns in for McPhillamy Park, and then up and over Skyline. One of the places that you love to race, and he's been here so many times before, both here and in other competition. He knows it very, very well, knows every little crevice, every little crease, every little possible spot where you can make up the time. He is throwing this number 1 around like a rag doll. It's wagging its tail here, there and everywhere, and he's found even more time. He's out to 1.1. This is going to be a lap that we see into the 5s yet again, no doubt.
Yeah, really, really good run there. Car's looking, as I said, car looking very lively, but it's able to turn pace out of it. It's almost like almost what we see historically of a Brenton Foley style setup, but it's just slightly trimmed. He's just running it on the knife edge of the tyre, running it on the slip angle as he gets around the corners, and he's getting really good pace out of it. Almost just speedwaying it at points, but it's really working out for him. Just one lap left to go now, or one corner left to go now, and we'll see what that'll be. It'll definitely be a Oh, yep, just a 5.
Yep,
5.9.
lost a little bit of time in that last sector, but it matters not. He is the pole sitter for tonight's race. So we have got some word through about what's going on. A little bit of I'm not sure, some sort of a game glitch or other situation for Fraser Clegg and Will Devonish, who was meant to go out probably about 3 minutes ago. There's a power failure at his address at the moment. So at this stage, he starts 9th, Fraser Clegg starts 10th, and we will wait and see what on earth happens to Will Devonish if he actually will indeed make the start tonight. So big question mark there, but that explains why we only had 8 runners in a top 10 shootout, Roddy.
Yeah, it's just it's been confirmed as to what happened with Fraser. He miscalculated his time availability and thought he had time to get ice cream before he did a shootout lap. So sort of an homage to Days of Thunder there, I guess.
We're eating ice cream.
Yep, that's unfortunate. But what Fraser has shown, at least, he's only done the one race so far in Dev Series last week. But he was, for somebody who had never touched the mod and maybe never touched this version of Bathurst before, he was really on the pace. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in the race. And look, worst case, he's only going to start 10th, maybe 9th. He is at least guaranteed to be able to start the race. We do not know with Will's situation whether it's just a power blip, whether it's power out, and if the power's out, to what degree the issue is. And if it's a transformer, it sounds like it's a problem that he's not equipped to fix. And those usually don't get fixed in 5-10 minutes.
No, certainly not. Well, that is, of course, the shootout over and done with. So we will now advance the session on and move it onto the warm-up for tonight. While we do wait and see what happens there, that actually gives us a chance to set our grids and to talk about everything else that's going on, and a few other drivers to actually to jump back in. So the grid order, as it stands, it is going to be Stenberg from Steele Allison on the front row, Noah Tara, Brenton Foley, Aidan Williams, Ethan Knight, and Ryan Smith and Luke Speck. They're the 8 that attempted laps. And then you've got the 2 that didn't run. So Will Devonish, of course, we know why for him, and Fraser Clegg out as well. Now, the reason that they're going to be 9th and 10th in that order is just purely championship order. And also to do with the qualifying order, who had the faster lap time in the regular qualifying. And then beyond that, David McDonald, Brandon Dostal, Cam Rutledge, Daniel Cox, you had Curtis Igmanis was in there, as well as a couple of other drivers in here that I don't think have made tonight, but they've been put into the list because of how things are there. So we'll wait and see how all that unfolds. We have got a stream of cars that are heading out for a brief warm-up session, so that will give a chance there. But Roddy, that actually gives us a chance to just see how the driver standings are being presented, because one thing that we need to remind everybody now is the drop round is in effect. So all the drivers' worst rounds are being calculated into proceedings here. So for Will Devonish, he's already had his worst round taken off. If he misses tonight, for whatever reason, then this will become his drop round, and then whatever points he'd already dropped will go back on, which I can't remember if he's already missed a round or not.
He has already missed a round. He was not here for Taupo, so he's already got a drop round of 0. So this effectively does nothing to him. He will stay on 25.43 if he misses tonight, but he is 438 points clear currently of Kurt Stenberg in second, who also has already missed a round. I wouldn't say it's impossible for him to bring it up. It's 300 points for a win. It will make a championship fight interesting at Adelaide, but it would no means make it a close fight. It's still going to be 100 and something points Will's favour if Kurt's able to pick up 300 points tonight.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So if Will Devonish actually doesn't make it, it's not the end of the world for him. It just means if Stenberg was to pick up a win, which, at this stage is looking fairly likely, depending on how things go with Devonish, that would actually bring that margin down to about 143 points. And that's not insurmountable going into Adelaide either. So, anything can potentially happen at that circuit too. It's much the same as Bathurst. There's danger here, there, and absolutely everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah. Good little fight then going on from third on back, and realistically that fight covers third through to sixth. And actually, that was a contentious point as well with the drop round coming in, because outside of Speck and Foley are the only 2 in that battle, third through sixth, that have turned up for every single round. So the only 2 that have a drop round to pull from. Unfortunately for Foley, it's just enough that his drop round, and because of the rules, and they are actually in a little bit of a debated state at the moment within the administration team, but the rules currently sit that if you have a disqualification in a session, you cannot drop that round from your points. And Foley's only round sub 100 points was at Gold Coast, where he got a DQ in race 2 for running a mixed tyre compound during the race. Because of that DQ, he can't drop what was otherwise, I think, a 60 or 70 point round. So he's got to drop 144. Third is Luke Speck with a drop 133. And they're making up that fight of Luke Speck on 1875, Tara on 1799, Mitchell Steelhouse on 1782, and Foley 1724.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That'll be an interesting little fight because if Speck or Foley have a poor round tonight, this becomes their drop round. Whereas for Tara and Steele Allison, they've already dropped their round. They've already missed a round of racing. So they can continue up the order unimpeded.
That's right. So then when you look at where everything is there for 9th and 10th, if we flip over the page here, Rody, just for a very brief moment, let's have a look at what's going on with the outside the top 10, because there's still some quite close fights going on here too.
There is there. So yeah, pretty healthy spacing sort of going down. Damon's from Damon in 10th. You're going to get up over 100 back to Cox in 11th. He's then leading. He's actually leading that team out battle with Cam Rutledge. And based on qualifying order for tonight, they're going to. I think they qualified back to back, so they're going to keep that fight up. And then from there back, McFarlane's going to be the big mover, obviously with his performances so far this season. Although I think for me he missed the shootout, so he's got a bit of work to do from wherever he's starting. He's actually starting 19th. He actually didn't qualify at all, so he's basically doing a last to first tonight if he make that work. Steve Warwick, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, so he's going to drop down a little bit. Ryan Smith, now that he's here tonight, he's probably going to move above Steve Warwick. And then Darren Logan in there as well. He's here tonight. And Daryl Callahan, who I don't believe... I know Daryl is supposed to be racing tonight, I believe. I think he did actually pre-qualify, but he had turned up.
He had pre-qualified, but he hasn't made it, yes. So that's another interesting point. So not quite sure what's happening there, but yes, that's another one who's out of commission.
And then from there, Dostal's turned up tonight, so we get to see Dostal on track, as is Rossi. He's filling in again, I believe, for Phil Boak. And Newing's not here tonight either in 20th. A few movers outside of that as well. Zach Brown's here again tonight. So he's currently in 24th. He'll make some moves. As will Lewis Wedding, who's currently sitting on the 132 points he earned at Sandown. But now he's actually presenting those or presenting any future points for his own team. So he will be moving forward as well.
Yeah, that's right. And as we go over the page, let's have a look at the teams. Well, the teams is pretty much almost sewn up the way that it is now with 3 races left remaining. So CRE Engineering well and truly out in front ahead of CRE Amped Up. It gets a bit interesting after that because SCS Shogun ahead are still going to try and fight there with CRE Anson Motorsports. So you've got Daniel Cox and Cam Rutledge, the current incumbents, in 3rd, and then Luke Speck and Luke Newing in 4th. And because of Brendan Ross's return as well, don't discount PBF Race Engineering out from usurping the pair of them because they are right there. They're within striking distance. So that's definitely one to watch for the last spot of the top 3 there. And then Luke McHugh Racing. Good to have them with 2 cars tonight. And then obviously the only single car team in there, Anti-Coal Auto Sports, which of course is Kurt Stenberg. So that is the state of play when it comes to everything ASR, with of course this round and the one to go. So Bathurst tonight, then 2 races at Adelaide. So the Development Series race on the 31st of October, which is the final for them as well. And then the final race for the main game is on the 7th of November, which is a very, very early finish to the season compared to what it has been in previous years.
It is, yeah. It's weird that it does feel weird that we're not even into November and we're already starting to plan not only for the end of the year but also starting to make plans for next year. But it's a weird thing that's come this early. Although I'm not the only one that started making plans this early. I actually had one of my drivers message me, I think it was last week, saying, "Oh, hey, I've got 2 interested parties that are trying to chase me down. I'm not moving anywhere. I'm just letting you know." I'm like, okay, well, if they're starting that early, maybe I should be starting this early. So I think a few teams that are already starting to line things up for 2026. And 2026 is looking like a pretty promising point as well. There's some changes to Gen 3 that are on the horizon that I know that Higo is currently working through. And probably some changes to, probably some changes along across the board in terms of eligibility for Super 2 and for Super 3, and also changes coming through the social series as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fair old bit of stuff to work through in the next couple of weeks. So yes, confirming that Will Devonish is out of tonight's proceedings. So it will be a rather interesting situation now with what is about to happen for the rest of the field that is about to take to the mountain for 49 laps. Race number 21 of the championship. Everybody's lining up, so that will mean everybody on back from 9th place will, by virtue of Will's absence, gain a spot pretty much straight away. The game will sort it out. And there are a couple of drivers there as well up the back that have were put into certain positions based on the championship order, but they will then be brought forward by the game as well. So, formation lap about to commence. Rody, this has been your domain for a number of years now, and I don't see any reason for it to change. It's over to you.
Alrighty, starting off pole with a pretty dominant lap in the end. Really nicely put together lap is Kurt Stenberg, Van Call Autosports, running the Kingsley Chicken car again tonight. Starting alongside him, and I think he's probably one of his best qualifying performances of the year, is Mitchell Steele-Alice, so very much taking advantage of the way the chips fell for the rest of the field. But here we're starting the PBF by SES number 24 Mustang from 2nd place. Third is Noah Turf, Sierra Amped Up Racing, running the motor livery again tonight. You can see Noah up in 3rd with another surprise in such, with Brenton Foley up in 4th. So that's 2 PBF cars within the top 4. And he'll be the lead PBF French Engineering tomorrow. 5th is Aidan Williams. Good to see Aidan back on the grid. A bit of a messy shootout session, but importantly he got a time on the board, so he'll be starting from 5th in the AF Racing Valvoline number 95, with Ethan Knight back in the grid again in 6th place. Really good run for someone who's not been able to get too much running into these cars this year, and I don't think it's maybe had too much of an agreement with these cars this year, but he's managed to pull it out when it matters, so good to see Liquid Q Racing by SES up in the top 10. 7th is Ryan Smith for SES Spud Division, number 60, running the Pussy Engineering Company livery tonight. Good to see a new car on the grid for Ryan.
Meow.
Luke Speck in 8th, running SES Shogun. Another new livery for him tonight as well, with the GTA 6 advertised on the bottom. I think he's at least 9 months too early for that, but never get in too early on that. 9th is Fraser Clegg, filling in for Rory Collins tonight for PBF by SES, the 00, and I think SES are possibly targeting him for next year, given that they put him into one of their cars. With Damon McDonald completing the top 10. Oh, actually, sorry, it'll be top 9. Damon McDonald, through the nature of it, Damon McDonald has actually got himself a spot in the top 10. He's just not through there for a run in the shootout. 11th is Brandon Dostal on the grid with a bit of a throwback livery, and it's a bit of a special number on this one as well, but he's going back to the Pertec colours again, which we're very familiar to seeing him in years gone past. With Cam Rutledge in 12th for Sierra Anson Motorsport. He's the lead of those 2 cars. With his teammate behind him in 13th, that's Daniel Cox from Sierra Anson Motorsport number 94. 14th is Kodo Sekmanis, aka Termo. He's in the Peanut Slab car again, the Whitaker's car. He believed he ran that at Sandown, so good to see that livery out again. With Daryl Callahan making it very last minute to pop on the grid in 15th, so there is 2 Liquid Q cars here tonight. 16th is Darren Lodgen, the One Boarding Racing Team car here tonight, with Corey McFarlane here again in the Tickford Racing guest car in 17th. 18th is Brendan Ross filling in for Phil Boak. 19th is Zach Brown. He's filling in for Steve Warwick, who unfortunately can't make it tonight. He is doing okay. He's just dealing with the politics of life, I guess is a way of putting it. 20th is Lewis Wedding for the team name that doesn't fit in the team name, but it is Adelaide the Ultimate by BBR Autosports. Good to see him back on the grid for the first time in, I think we're talking about 15 months. And that is the 2020 car grid. There were a few more, but they did turn up. So there's the 20 cars tonight.
Yes, so Wedding about to come around the final corner now and line up on the grid. not too far away from a race start here. Leaders already, or the pole sitter already sitting on the front row of the grid. The mountain is calling, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get this show on the road. The Bathurst 300 first single driver run for many years in ASR is underway, and your pole sitter converts beautifully from the inside of the grid, sweeps to the right, takes the approach to the left-hander at turn number 1 and sets sail up the mountain with all the chaos starting to unfold behind. Already a couple of cars a bit further wide back in the field. Here's Cox, who's on the outside of that's of the 55 there of Corey McFarlane, who himself is having a go at Curtis Igmanis there, and a bit further up the thing. Oh, Dostal into the did he get into the back of Damon McDonald there?
He might have, but I think I noticed actually, and it's unfortunately happened twice in 2 races where Mitchell Steele Allison has just linked out of the server, and I suspect it's going to be terminal. He had this happen in the first race, in the first lap of the Dev Series as well, so really given his pace.
No, that's a shame for him, and yeah, it looks like he is dropping down the timing screens. We haven't actually got a timing intermediate here at the moment. That elevates Brenton Foley to 2nd spot, Aidan Williams up to 3rd spot, as they start to try and give chase to the number 1 there, but they've got a fair old effort to climb here, and we will wait and see what happens to the Mitchell Steele Allison entry, which don't believe is going to take any further part in this race. What a shame.
Yeah, for how strong he managed to not only to run into the shootout, but obviously then to get himself on the front row. Real unfortunate for Mitch. I'm not sure whether that's an internet issue or maybe just didn't get the settings right graphically, and maybe that's what's caused his issue. But that's really unfortunate. Happened to him twice in 2 weeks. Yeah, certainly is. As the train heads down the mountain now, already here, Dostal, he's already gotten into the back of McDonald. He's not wasting time. He actually wants to get a move on here because McFarlane's actually got quite the head of steam behind him at the moment. So this is very early, going into the chase, 2x2 on lap 1. 3 Mustangs all wagging the tail through the kink on the approach to the chase. There's no holding back here. McFarlane's quite racy at the moment in the 55. Dostal will actually probably have to throw the defensive anchors out here, and he does. So he realises what's going on, and he covers that very, very early as, and a bit sideways off the last corner. That's going to give McFarlane the ascendancy he needs. He'll be down the inside on a flash here at Hell Corner at the beginning of lap 2, and it's an easy pass for the man aboard the Castrol machine. He gets that job done. Yeah, it's making for a very willing fight already. McFarlane are very much, I think the drivers around him know that he's going, to him being ahead of them is more or less, I wouldn't say inevitable, but it's going to happen. But at least in Dostal's case, just because a pass is inevitable doesn't mean you have to just roll it the red carpet and let them through. You make them work for it. With respect to Dostal in that effort, he is making McFarlane work for his positions.
Yeah, he certainly is. One of the broadcast cameras has just gone down for a moment, so we will inevitably get back to that one in just a few minutes' time. So Luke Speck now, just a couple is the next victim, I guess you can call it, in waiting for Corey McFarlane as they head up the hill and up to the top of the mountain for the 2nd time here. He's qualified fairly well. He did a pretty decent job to get in the shootout by virtue of the fact that, of course, Fraser Clegg and Will Devish did not run.
Just seen Aidan Williams got turned around and was backwards.
Oh yeah, here he is.
Skyline has caused all the cars to scatter like dominoes.
Yeah, and shortcutting the equation there. Luke Speck not wanting any part in any of that going on either, so I'm not surprised that he took to the runoff area because we thought that something else was going on there, as McFarlane almost about straight down the inside at the elbow, so he'll get that job done. And we'll get our 2nd broadcast camera back up fairly shortly, and we'll be able to flick through this field a little bit more. Timing will be a little bit off, unfortunately, on that camera, but we will keep an eye on things and let you know where everything is positioned as we're here on lap 2. Williams not wanting to give up the fight pretty early. This is probably the battle pack of all battle packs, I think, at the moment, Rody, that's going on in the field. So now that McFarlane's clear of the group and Williams is trying to go with him, that's now going to leave Speck to fend off the likes of Fraser Clegg. And you've got Dostal in here and Damon McDonald. And look who's lurking in the back. I'm actually a bit... it's Cam Rutledge has actually done a fairly decent job of holding on to this group in the early going.
Yeah, he's doing a good job attacking along. He's in a good little sandwich, and then he's got his teammate to lead him around. He's got Brennan Ross just to help him off the corners, or the Brennan Ross is actually looking to move on. Actually, no, so it's those two. They're dropping behind, actually. So Cam Rutledge, he's doing a good job holding now 2 of them off. He's actually up behind them. And I think with that, all that movement, though, he's going to lose the train coming up the straight. But I think, at least for Spec, the consolidation for him is that the next 3 cars that are chasing him down in assistance with Dostum are in one way or another teammates. There's two. There's one PBF by SES car there. There's one LMR car there, and one LMR by SES car there. I'm not sure what the plans are for next year, but I know this year, realistically, you can treat them as all under one larger umbrella. So he is in a position where, you know, if he's not going to be at risk from a really optimistic move, I think is the way to put it.
Yeah, we had a pretty decent view there from Damon McDonald, just seeing how close it was getting as Spec tries to defend pretty heavily from Dostal and from Clegg. I just noticed as well the what do you call it, the custom plate on the rear of Spec's car. I guess he's going for a little bit of a touch of what the Dick Johnson Racing stable have done this year with the backing in real life from I think it's Q plates, custom plates that you can do there. So channeling a little bit of love for DJR there, even though he's in the Camaro.
Yeah, it's a little design touch. It's fun little things that you can do if you've got the space. And I mean, that is what serves the common factor of supercars going back to their infancy, is that by running race or running road equivalent bodywork, you always have a spot for number plates. Normally you've got a sponsor there, but in this instance, you know, a one-off livery, and I think given the sponsors on the car, you know, we're not so worried about hitting a minimum budget in Spec's case, but I think that the budget has been hit regardless through the sponsors he's got, and he's like, well, I mean, we have Rockstar cash on the bonnet, probably half of the funding for the car for tonight. Yeah, he's got some space to just put a little personalisation touch at the rear of the car.
Yeah. Brendan Ross just managing to get through there on Canberra, Rutledge down Conrod Straight and into the chase. So that's changed position number 12 there as Ross goes up, Rutledge goes back down. So the race a bit further beyond the top 10 is starting to settle down a little bit, and everyone's starting to find their groove now. As we said, you will notice there will be a couple of unfortunate small discrepancies here with the lap timer in the top corner will change a little bit between the two broadcast cameras, because there's a little bit of an issue with one of the broadcast cameras going down fairly early, as Clegg was starting to get very interested in the inside of Brandon Dostal on the run-up Mountain Straight, and in fact to the point where Clegg had 2 wheels in the grass. You might have just caught vision on the other camera when we were looking back a bit further. So he's starting to find his feet here and starting to pressure a man who's probably got, I would say, probably 10 times more starts in this league compared to Clegg, who's now got his second in as many, in 3 weeks. But he's not showing any signs that he's scared.
No, Clegg's got some real good energy to him, and I believe he's sitting in the chat with Aidan Williams, so probably getting a little bit of coaching along from Aidan as well for this one. But yeah, some really good energy from him, and he's at this point, the work he's putting into Dostal is actually not resulting in much change there. Is actually giving Specky just a little bit of breathing room he needs. It's worked out about 7 or 8 tenths gap, and the way they're going is they're going too wide now, heading down to the elbow. Dostal's just about gets down the wall there. He's going to be very vulnerable coming out of the corner if he's not careful. He's held on for now, but yeah, the way things are going, this is building all of the gap that Specky's going to want to work with, and I don't think Clegg's going to take no for an answer. I think he definitely feels like he's got the pace of a Dostal and he wants to do something with it.
Certainly does, and he's going to get a little bit interested down here at the chase. Is Dostal going to fight it? Is he going to give him the room? They're both going to give each other some space. They're leaning on each other here. And who comes out with the high ground? Dostal comes out with the moment. Clegg has to shortcut across the grass here, and he's going to have to give that spot up. He can't gain that spot by doing that. That's going to give McDonald an incentive here to capitalise down the inside at the final corner, and he's not quite going to get it done. He'll be hanging in there though. Brennan Ross is now going to stick his nose in here if these two trip over themselves, and I think realising that, McDonald moved over to defend the position on the inside of turn 1. So smart choice there, bail out of it early, because he realised if something was going to go wrong, he was going to be rounded up.
Yeah, there's been an error for Spec somewhere there as well, possibly a run through 1, because he's now getting overtaken by Doss on the run up Mountain Straight. But from Rossi's point of view, he'd almost be in 2 minds on having bought this train, giving his view of how hard they've been racing on the last lap or 2. Damon in a certain position where he probably want the 2 in front of him just to calm down for 5 seconds to maintain his position over Rossi.
Certainly is. We've also lost Zach Brown in amongst all of this as well in the Chef Camaro. That was the one who was filling in for Steve Warwick, so you just noticed in the last lap that he has retired from this race. And I think got down there. I think we got Brendan Ross, who's just at the back of this little group of cars as well. So he was in a bit of a moment on the outside at turn number 1 and 2. As we go back to this little queue here, so Dostal's managed to get ahead now of Luke Speck, and Clegg was getting interested again right around the outside of a couple of turns at the top of the hill. So down off the Gazoo Racing Dipper they plunge, and Speck, is he just starting to need to find his feet again? I couldn't quite find out what the mistake was that he made coming up Mountain Straight to warrant Dostal going past at a vast rate of knots already, so that's a new one to me. But he's also now punching a big old hole in the air for the 00, and this should be easy pickings here for Fraser Clegg. Is he down the inside far enough? He's down the inside well and truly before the kink in the chase, and he gains that spot.
I think the other thing that's helped Fraser there is, compared to his passing ahead with Dostal a lap prior, is he's racing against someone with a slightly more senior, slightly more mature head on the shoulders. Specky knows it's a 49 lap race. He knows he's not going to win it on lap 5 or lap 6. He's and being who he is someone that can eventually out-strategize Fraser's pace if he feels he can go that way. But yeah, I think he's happy to just let Fraser go, and I think at this point, I want to see Zay Fraser's getting into a mindset of wanting to enact like exact any ill wrongs. I mean, he is in his second race in the series, and I think he is taking the approach of there's two approaches to new guy, that everyone you treat with like fine white gloves, or you just bring the boxing gloves up for everyone. I think he's gone for the latter option. But I think at this point he feels like he probably would have got that pass on Dostal if Dostal hadn't gone too wide and maybe forced him off the road at the chase. So I think he's got a bit of fire into the belly to go and chase Dostal down, and I think in Speck's position he might recognise that, and he's going to sit here and go, well, I'll let him go. He can go chase Dostal. They'll have a race, they'll lose a second together, and I'll get the spots back that way. Yeah,
well, then after they pass them, they'll be catching up to these two gentlemen who are having a go here. So Aidan Williams and Ethan Knight have found each other as they get across the top of the hill here at lap 6. So we are officially 10% of the way, or just over 10% of the way through this race, with 12 minutes on the clock already elapsed. We do believe that it's probably going to be somewhere in the region of about 1 3/4 to 2 hours this race. So it is quite a torture test. And as you were saying, Roddy, there are a couple of things that everybody is going to have to be aware of, and that's where our Pallet Control Solutions race facts come into play here. There will be pit stops in this one. The question is how many, 3 or 4? Development series, the number of drivers tried to get by on 2 if they could. As we can see this approach here with Williams trying to get down the inside here, and Ethan Knight having to hang that one out really well and truly. But yes, the big thing. Oh, as we see someone go sailing off into the background. Is that Dostal or Clegg? One of the two. We're about to go find out. No, it's Fraser Clegg. So he went for a wild ride straight off at the chase. He manages to surf it out the other side. Not quite sure what happened there. We are about to find out, courtesy of the replay here. This will reveal all. And some contact. Rightio. Okay, a little bit of contact between the two of them. That explains a lot.
Yeah, so saw the last two lap 2 ago now with the willing run there. Fraser, once bitten, twice shy, wasn't really wanting to give a quarter to Dostal there. I think what the issue was is that Fraser ended up on a line too narrow for the pace he was running. Mounted off the curb, and that curb is pretty steep on the inside, and you can get too much air off that curve, because you really need to have car control there in the air negates that. That pushed him out wide into Dostal. Dostal nearly on the grass, and I think as the result trying to capture the car, he's ended up back into Fraser's door, and they've both just been a very, very unsettled coming into the chase proper, and obviously that's meant Dostal took the grass, and I think actually gained a little bit temporarily there, and Clegg's ended up out in the sand trap and up into the wall, so he's currently rejoined back in 17th. We know he's got the pace to get back up through the field. It's a case of whether he can, and whether he's carrying any damage from that as well.
Yeah, that's right. Just having another couple of issues. The second broadcast camera has actually decided to crack the shits as well. So it's cracking the shits in the same way that Mitchell Steele-Allison's had his moment as well tonight. So not been a good night for all things to prepare and be ready to go. just one of those little nights. So we'll get that one back up in a few moments' time. So as we watch Igmanis now, he's trying to give chase to Wedding, who's actually done quite a decent job of moving his way through the field. And he's actually starting to hone in on the back of Spec, who Spec has gone to the rear of that group that was in there. So remember, it was Spec, Clegg, Dostal, and one or two others in there as well. And Brendan Ross, I think, was on the back of that little group as well. So he's now moved through into all things, you know, a bit further up the order. So Wedding's now starting to move forward. Now they're paying a little bit of homage to the Brodie Kostecki Championship winning car of 2023 in the Gen 3 era here, Rhodey, as well, just replacing a few things on the car.
Yeah, so I did talk to Lewis about this before, and I said, look, you know what, if you make it into the podium, or, you know, we give you an interview later in the night, here's a chance to try and get yourself some more sponsors for the rear half of the car, because it's currently a bit under-sponsored. But no, according to Lewis, this car is one of the Erebus chassis from that year, which is why it's got the coat base on it. It's obviously bought after the whole kerfuffle between Erebus and Kostecki and Brown. So this is one of the last vestiges of that era of Erebus. So look, based on the history of the chassis in the year, it could be a competitive car, but I don't think that actually goes to Lewis's favour in that instance, because if this is a championship winning car and he's not able to drag a decent result out of it, doesn't look too good for him. I don't think that was the intent of it, but no, it's a good looking car. It's good to see Lewis back out. I think he's going to have a few more sponsors on the car right away, which I think was the one round he was explicitly planning on making. And then we'll see. I've heard potential rumblings and rumourings that I don't know in what form it would be, whether it be Pixel, whether it be BBR, but I believe there is some interest from the likes of Zach Brown, Brendan Ross, who's running tonight, for Lewis Wedding, who's here tonight, to maybe reform some sort of team banner for themselves for next year.
Oh, we'll see what happens. But next year is next year, of course. That's the important thing there to be worried about. Now, of course, with the broadcast cameras unfortunately causing a little bit of chaos for us tonight, we're going to have to just go off the live timing and just give you the real-time gaps as they sit. So Noah Tara, who's on screen now, about to come across the line to a complete lap 8, so he'll be starting lap 9. And he's being chased now by Corey McFarlane, who's managed to get past Brenton Foley. And these guys are about 8 seconds in arrears of Kurt Stenberg. So there's Tara, to give you an idea, just heading up Mountain Straight. There's Stenberg, he's in the braking zone at turn 2. So already the gap is, in some parts, is not actually visual. So by the time Stenberg was turning into Griffin's Bend, Tara was only just starting to crest the hump in Mountain Straight.
Yeah, I think the only point is directly visible, ignoring the points where you can see over the wall as we're going through the top, and as the corners sort of weave back and forth, is down Conrod itself now for Stenberg. It was clear of, well, other way around. Tara was behind the hump as Stenberg was turning in for turn 2. So, look, he's someone that has had a lot of seat time, and I'll talk about him for a little bit, because generally with all the action and running 8-9 seconds clear of second place isn't going to guarantee a lot of action. As we mentioned in the shootout, Stenberg spent a lot of time around this track in various forms. He does also run and has run Scops in the past, and also has run in his own league as well for a few years. But he's spent, I think he's, the last I talked to him about, something like 20 odd years on the wider R Factor and Successes platform. Yeah, this version of the track isn't R Factor source, but you know, it's pretty close to the real deal. And he already run an iRacing. You got a full laser scanned version. He spent a lot of time here. He spent quite a bit of time in the last few years in these cars. It's not really a surprise he's out there jetting out like this. The one thing that would probably bring the race back to the rest of the field in this instance would be a true driver event. That said, Kurt does have a pretty good pool of drivers, if he felt like, that he could pull from, that he knows through his other endeavours, that are probably about similar, if not better pace than he is. And I think it was 2 years ago now that Kurt and I believe it was Dane Warren teamed up for one of our enduros, and did pretty much what Kurt's doing right now, and kind of just set sail and put their mark on the field.
Yeah, Luke Rosella in another instance, I think in another life, was another one of the co-drivers that was roped in at one stage, and in one stage I think it was purely because at that point Rosella was actually the defending champion when we actually had the Bathurst 500 back in the day. That was from when what was the word back in the day? I think it was he was the joke was he was carried by Lime Mitch, but I think it was realistically I think it was the other way around.
Yeah, there were a few good years of backpack entries. That was one of them. I know John McDonald and Zach Ross in there. I think it was actually they were sort of one team up. They actually teamed up next year. The Supercars are still holding together, but they raced Bathurst the year before. It was just holding together.
Lewis Wedding's now got past Luke Speck, by the way. So while you're talking about that, so sorry to cut you off. But Lewis Wedding was just managed to get past Luke Speck. That's for 11th place, and now he's going to set out after Brendan Ross, and who himself was actually trying to set out after. Actually, he was right on the bumper of Brandon Dostal. So good run for Brendan Ross so far. Oh, both of them pushing the limits there a little bit as they went through up and under the bridge there, and almost wiped the rear left quarter panels on the wall.
Yeah, Rossi's had we caught bits of his run so far in the race. I was about to say he's had a pretty quiet race. Doing that won't help. He hooked to the other side of the curb and kicked up the rear wheels and pushed into the fence. I think he got away with that, luckily though, for Rossi. But yeah, Rossi and obviously Lewis right behind him too have had a pretty quiet run, just quietly plodding their way through the field. They have obviously Rossi's his first time racing this series. I think at this point he's done more runs in the 046 than Phil has been able to. But he's very much still someone that's spent a lot of years here. His history here goes back to 2018. Same with Lewis. They've experienced and raced with, I think, most of the guys on the grid. The only exception for them, I think, would be Fraser Clegg, and I probably wouldn't have spent a lot of time around Adrian Williams or Heath Nice. But they know the length of this race, and it's a 49-lap race. They're not necessarily holding too much into it, they're just here to have some fun. They'd like to finish well, but they're here to have some fun. So they've got the patience and they've got the time within their own schedules to just sit down and take their time to make the smart pass, whereas, which is going to have to do here because Dostal's making this a real fight. He ran some a little bit deep trying to defend the last corner and off the exit corner as well, and pulling across now to park it as well on the run up Mountain Straight. The way things are going, and it's already cost him a little bit there, it does actually swing the other way as we're coming up Mountain Straight, as they tow each other along and actually pull away from Wedding. But they did actually cost themselves, I think, about a tenth or two to Wedding in that battle there. It cost them a bit more time here. The problem with the way Dostal's going, I mean, if the car's faster than you by a little bit, and I'm not saying you shouldn't defend it, but he's at risk of bringing Wedding into this. I mean, if he defends hard enough and he hits them both back there long enough to bring Spec into this, there's a little bit of a window back to the Marnus, but it's very easy to defend against one car. It's less easy to defend against 3 or 4. Yeah,
that's right. While you were talking about that, we actually did see that Corey McFarlane had indeed managed to get past not only Noah Tara, but for a very brief moment there as well, Brenton Foley actually managed to get back in front of him as well. So that's all now settled down and gone back to where it is. So Tara now settles into third with Foley right behind him. Now we'll start to get an idea of the pace that McFarlane's got. So we are 11 laps into this race now. Stenberg's got 12.3 seconds out in front. We're about to see what sort of pace the number 55 has got in clear air. Can he actually start to erase some of that deficit? He's been fast all for the races that he has been able to attend, Corey McFarlane. So he definitely knows how this car works and what he can actually do with it. It's about what can he do from this point onwards. So last lap by for Stenberg, 208.3, and McFarlane this time around just waiting for the time to update itself, a 7.3. So already there's a second right there.
There is, yeah. I mean, the difference in best laps is pretty much a line ball. It goes in McFarlane's favour by just over a tenth. But really not a lot in it. But I think at this point, Stenberg knows his gap, and he'll be keeping an eye on it as it starts to come down. He would have been watching it when slowly increasing as Tara and temporarily Foley was the car on his metric. But now it's McFarlane. I think he knows McFarlane's pace and what to expect from it. He's going to probably watch that, maybe start to creep down, and Stenberg is running about 2 seconds off of his PB right now, whereas McFarlane's about a second off. So McFarlane, his pace drop off is tyres. Whereas for Stenberg, a little bit tyres, but he's not been pushing them that hard. He's probably recognised what he needs to do to pull away from Tara, and he's been doing that. It's all he's been worried about. So he's got a little bit of tyre, I think, at the back end now to help to pad that gap out.
Yep.
The question will be, coming into the next stint, whether they've either of them got any more pace in the car, and when they choose to use it. The way it sits, it could very much stay as an 11-second gap, which is what's floating about now. If Ireland's quicker by a 10th, there is enough laps left in this race. I'm not doing the rough map in my head, but there is about enough laps left in the race that if you can constantly be quicker than the guy in front of you by a 10th, that and maybe some optimal pit stops, you could really be in the window to challenge him for the final couple of laps. But that's something we really can't make a call on at lap 12 of the race.
To give you an idea, on this lap, there was 1/10 of a second difference in Sector 1, Corey McFarlane's favour. Their sector times in Sector 2 were identical to the 1,000th of a second. All right, and then so Stenberg's now just flashed across the line with the third sector. He's just done a 2:07.4, and McFarlane's now about to flash across the line, and we'll get a read on his time. And he has done a 2:07.1. He was actually a tenth and a half quicker in the final sector. So this is game on here. This is going to be rather interesting just to see how all this pans out at the back end. Meanwhile, Brendan Ross has now found his way past Brandon Dostal. So Lewis Wedding is now the next person that's going to look to get past the number. Well, this week it's the number 10 for Brandon Dostal. Said it's a change of car number for him this weekend. It's the first time we've actually seen him run something other than the 77. Last time it was Anthony Green who ran car number 10. We haven't seen him for about a year and a half now, I don't believe. So
no, it's one of the iconic numbers for Dostal running the 76. I think he's run that back to Dev Series, and I think probably one of the first ones he's run in this series. I think he only deviates from that if he's running a number for a special occasion, such as tonight. But yeah, it's the first time we've seen 10 in the Supercars since Anthony Green. So yeah, it's a very interesting one to bring back. It was actually kind of helpful where he had some of the files set up for us, so it's easy to transfer across. But yeah, something different for Dostal. I believe the plan had potentially is to run it for Adelaide as well, and then maybe it might be a change in the new year as well. Just one of those things again. 2026, we're not talking about it yet. But one of the things that might be a change going forward, we just see Dostal out on the 76, but I believe there is good reasons for the change. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, there's a lot of numbers that are very personal to some drivers as well. I think I remember for a little while, I think it was Ben Hall, who, of course, with the passing of Luke McHugh, which, of course, the team names after it, he wanted to run I think it was 19, I think was the number, because that's what Luke's age was when he passed away. Was a number of significance. So it's those sorts of things that sometimes are a little bit special to drivers. There's a significance behind it. So for a long time, of course, Lewis Wedding's always run 89. Brendan Ross has had his number over the course of time as well. Just have a look at the Camaro closing in on a straight line advantage here over Brandon Dostal. That could be all to do with things such as not just how powerful the draft was, but also whatever the wing settings are that they're opting to run. And Wedding has gone right around the outside there at the chase, and he wrestles that spot away, and Dostal pits.
Yeah, I think that was unfortunate for Dostal. That just came right at the end there. He couldn't really do much to defend it, but I think the very size are out. He didn't have much choice. So he's, I think,
he's the first caller.
First to peel in. So he could be early. We don't know. I think that the mooting was something in the region of going off of Dev Series, like 2 or 3 stops. I can't remember, to be fair, because I was pitting way earlier than the metric was supposed to be. I had a really, really torrid run at Bathurst, but I just get the feeling, based on nobody else in the lady, is probably a bit early. But we'll see whether this is a repeating pattern or whether he's just trying to shake things up to get out of sequence with everyone else.
Well, that's at the end of lap 13 for him, so effectively that commits him to effectively almost like a 3-stop strategy at this point. That's actually not a bad way to look at it, I think. Lap 13, you're probably going to go lap 26, lap 39, and then you've only got 10 laps to home from there. So it's not a bad way to do it. Also probably searching for a little bit of clear air too, while we keep focusing on Damon McDonald, who's harassing the back of Dostal's stablemate here in Ethan Knight, who's holding on to 7th place by the skin of his teeth at the moment as they crest Skyline and head down the hill again for the 14th time.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really mentioning it because the broadcast goes to live as well.
Compound matters. That is correct. That's a speeding on pit lane offence. So unfortunately for him, he's just exited the lane. He will have to tour the lane again. So I was about to say, going into the pits early to look for some clear air, and probably not the bad thing to do to come out in clear air, but then unfortunately kicks an own goal and speeds on pit lane. So Knight going to have to throw out the defence here, I think, because the 59 of McDonald is right under his rear wing, and for the moment it sits along okay. Where are the next cars and what are they up to in terms of the pit lane? Whoops! Whoop, as I saw McDonald peel for the pits. What was going on there at turn number 1? Just something that I just caught in the back of my eye as I was watching that. Let's go and have a look, because I got a funny feeling that both Foley and Turra both committed the same mistake at turn number 1. So they had a decent battle out of turn number 1, so out of the final corner. And then this happened. So Turra in a little bit deep, I think, at turn number 1 there. Yep, he got a little bit too far wide, and then Foley behind him, we rewind it back, he actually went, well, a lot further wide.
Yeah, so Tara got a pretty good run. I think maybe just tyres was the reason he just pushed a little wide off the corner. For Foley, he overshot the corner completely. Well, he still made the corner, but he did overshoot quite healthily, and that he's still on the track, but that cost him obviously through the corner and the run off the corner, and that's the reason that gap is now ballooned out to about 2.5 seconds. But also, I think for the pair of them, tyres is influencing that as well at this point.
McFarlane.
And I've just noticed, well, Dostal's out of the race.
Yeah, well, he's just come in and retired, I think, more importantly, after the pit lane speeding penalty. McFarlane's just been in the pits. McDonald's actually, we saw him peel in, and Brendan Ross has actually been in as well. So, cut early stop. So, a few early stoppers here. That's at the end of lap 14. These guys are now back out on the racetrack. So, for McDonald, he was, as you said, tucked in there behind Ethan Knight, so he'll be one that we'll be keeping an eye on in a little while. Stenberg goes around again, so that's important for him. Noah Turra now currently in second place, but with McFarlane actually pitting from second place and ahead of him, what does the 26 do here? Is he going to come in this lap? He is indeed, and Foley follows.
Yeah, we're giving that run through the first corner. I'm not surprised that they're in this lap. Very much running the depth of their tyres. So yeah, 15, 30, and potentially, I don't know how long you can push that third stint. It potentially makes this a two-slot race for these guys, pitting start at lap 16.
This is a bit samey here as well. So Aidan Williams in, you've got Ethan Knight, who's now coming into the lane. Lewis Wedding following suit. Specs bucking the trend. He's going around again. And so too Fraser Clegg by the look of it. Oh, Lewis, that was almost borderlining on Craig Lowndes, going to end up in a gravel trap there. He took a lot of inside curb on the left-hand side there in the kink in the pit lane entry. And now the important thing for me, just keeping an eye on everything as everyone's in the pits. Oh, and there's a bit of awkward situation here with having to share with Aidan Williams. That's two single-car teams. Oh, Daniel Cox is in the lane, I think, as well. I'm looking for Corey McFarlane's going to get the high ground here. He'll go back into second place. I'm more interested in what's about to happen with Damon McDonald and Ethan Knight, because that was the battle we were keeping an eye on. As McDonald's in the chase at the moment, and still stationary in the lane is Ethan Knight, as Wedding has been massively inconvenienced by Aidan Williams, so he's having to get a wriggle on here. Knight's still stationary. He's now on the move. This is going to be a change of position, I think, with McDonald marching down the pit straight, and the undercut in this situation has worked a treat. There he goes, and he's going to have quite the march here on not only Ethan Knight, but he's going to have a hell of a run at the back of Aidan Williams.
Yeah, so he's got at least a lap fresher, and importantly, well, not lap fresher, a lap warmer tyres. He's got warm brakes. It's going to take a pretty confident move from Aidan Williams to try and hold this off. But already, before the apex, he's already up alongside, and he's made it past done. So really good, not only a good in lap for McDonald, but obviously a good out lap as well, getting the heat of the tyres and getting the speed up again. Overcutting 2 or 3 drivers in as a result of that move. And yeah, the big loser out of that is Wedding. The one interesting one to see is Wedding drop in as well. Stenberg has stayed out.
He's in at the moment, so we're just keeping an eye on him. He's actually in the lane as we speak.
But yeah, I think the rest of the runners are coming in now. I think Specs indicating to come in, as is Clegg, as is Igmanus and Rutledge, with Lognan actually, I think, one of the few who's yet to pit who isn't indicating as such.
Yeah.
So he might go a lap longer. He's someone that I would also expect to go a lap longer to try and roll the dice on something later in the race.
Yeah, everybody that we can see is coming in now. So
oh,
we've got Specker's had a moment.
Too hard.
Oh, he has. I couldn't see him for a minute. I'm wondering where he was. We were keeping an eye on the other screen. He has fouled up royally going into pit lane, and he's not only coughed up a pit lane. He's coughed up 2 positions in pit lane there. That is worthy of an ASR replay, because you don't see this all that often. So here we go on the approach into pit lane. Moments in ASR history, and got the inside wall, and shoved him into the tyre barrier too. So the other thing will be he's going to have some damage to repair after that. You don't see that sort of a fumble every day.
No, that's a really peculiar one. I think it's the first time I've seen someone hit the wall. Like, I've seen people brush the wall as you come into the pit lane. You're trying to maximise the run, but never to the strength and with the speed and the angle that it fires you into the gravel trap. I think he was lucky in that he avoided the wall, so he avoided any damage on the right-hand side when he got to the gravel trap and the tyres. But yeah, that's cost him a couple of spots, and of the one of the spots to lose time, you really don't want to lose time in a pit lane because it's really sort of a controlled environment. It's just it's procedural, just in, stop, done, out. There's a prescribed time it's going to take. It doesn't really vary out too much. To lose a couple of spots in what's probably about 5-10 seconds in a pit stop, or not even a pit stop, on the way to your pit stop, isn't good. Another one who's picked up a drive-through, unfortunately, was Daryl Callahan. So that's going to be unfortunate for Daryl. A bit of maybe like a seat time for Daryl, and maybe not quite recognising there is 2 lines at the start of pit lane, one of them being the start of pit lane, the other one being the start-finish line, checkered flag. That obviously crosses the entire track, and I have seen a few drivers in practice mix the 2 up, so that might be what's happened to Callahan and also to Dostal.
Well, the only person yet to stop is this man on screen, the Purple People leader, the number 31 of Darren Lognan. He's about to be rounded up by Corey McFarlane down Mountain Straight, I think. Down Conrod Straight here. And probably down at the chase. He's fought this one a little bit longer than I thought he was going to fight it. He makes McFarlane earn it. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Vortex Racing Team machine in this lap, and that will then cleanse the field for the first round of stops. And indeed he did. He does. He pulls over to the left side, and he'll be the last man into pit lane. So that's going to give him a fairly short stint to the flag here. At the end of this race, he comes in to make that stop happen. So that sends the Tara and Foley now through into 3rd and 4th, and pretty much puts everybody back where they were. So the big winners out of that is going to be Damon McDonald, who's gained, he's actually managed to get past Aidan Williams, so he's actually gained 2 spots in this whole sequence of events. So that little undercut and a lap in clean air has worked wonders for him. Brendan Ross has actually managed to usurp Ethan Knight as well, so that's something I didn't see coming.
Yeah, I was just something odd as well, or is that no? That's really weird. There's no spec. He's getting blue flags for Lewis Wedding, even though they're fighting for position. Funny game moment there. So a couple of big winners out of all that. And so things back as they go. The other thing I think to note as well, in running as long as he did, Lognan is actually going to cut this into a pretty even 2-stop, 3-stint race. 17, 34, 51 means he can give up 2 laps somewhere in the next 2 stints. But the way he's running, he can run a pretty comfortable 2-stop from here. So look, his pace doesn't necessarily bring him into a chance of a win. But we haven't had one yet, and I don't think we have one in Dev Series. Don't do one all the same. Safety car at a really good time for him. It could work out really nicely.
Yeah, that's where I think he's playing this angle from. As we look at Igmanus heading up the hill now onto to Metal Grey. What I think you're right. What I think he's done there by staying out longer is he's hoping that towards the back end of this race, as things start to come together, that there's going to be a bit of contact, or there's going to be a safety car triggered. And if he's already done his stop, everybody else that actually does need to stop again, they won't have a choice. They will actually have to stop again. They won't be able to get to the flag at that point. and he'll actually inherit track position there and potentially be in the spot to steal a march. He'll be able to go through and take that position. Unfortunately for him, being down the order though in 17th and last as it sits right now with the field sort of sorted out, he's going to be relying on, you know, a little bit of good fortune for that to happen. In the same way, a lot of other drivers are going to be relying on the good fortune of a safety car to bring the field back together, as it is quite fairly well sort of spread out here at the moment. So to run you through the order, just so everybody is aware of where everything's at. So the lead at the moment for Kurt Stenberg, your pole sitter, just a hair on 11 seconds at the moment. Going blow for blow at the moment with McFarlane, and they just traded fastest laps with each other. A 6.5 for Stenberg, which is the fast lap of the race, against a 6.6. So they're definitely starting to push the limits here. He's on lap 19, or started lap 19. So he's now coming down the S's and into the dipper. There's McFarlane. He's about to come into McPhillamy Park. So again, his fastest lap of the race, just starting to come on this new fresher set of tyres, having worked his way through from the rear of the field. Noah Tara and Brett Foley glued nose to tail. They're now coming down the mountain. So this will be a good fight to the flag here between the two of them, and they're pretty close on their fastest laps as well. They're trading, 10th for 10th here and there. Ryan Smith, a pretty quiet race for him in 5th place, so good solid 5th place in the SES Spud Division machine. Oops, we've just looking at something here before we'll cut back to that in a minute. That was very nearly a cause of a safety car. Igmanis facing the wrong way at the cutting exit. We'll have a bit of a look at what happened to him. This will be an interesting situation here, Rhodey. Let's have a look at this one. Did he actually get the inside wall, or is he just a little bit too loud, a little bit too aggressive on the loud pedal? And thankfully for where he was, Rutledge was, the racing line is on the right-hand side, so he was able to avoid that one pretty easily at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the luck for Igmanis in terms of course the safety car was that he was that far across and moved himself further off the line that Rutledge was able to get through without any major impedance. Or to be fair, we are better at actually getting through than the safety car thinks we are. There's plenty of times where the car is off the racing line, but the safety car decides, nope, there's a safety car anyway. So this is one of this is where it actually kind of tracked with our perception of what it's at. Well, unfortunately for Tomo, he did manage to more or less avoid any major wall contact, which will have kept damage out of the car, but just unfortunate one. It's easy enough to do through there. The elevation changes and you've got to get it on throttle, and it's very easy to just sort of light the rears up. You get a little bit impatient with the car and you're trying to get it moving. So that's cost him a spot to Rutledge, but also cost him a lot of momentum, and he's got a bit of work to do now. He's in a bit of a no man's land between Rutledge and Cox, and not that we were following that teammate battle, but Rutledge is currently still beating Cox in that teammate battle. The other thing I was actually going to talk about, which is one of the stories we were actually following, was what things were looking up to in the top two. And last lap by, or lap prior, actually no, it would have been the lap prior, Stenberg swung it back the other way. Fastest lap up until that point was McFarlane with a 6.6. Stenberg responded in, I think, the first or second lap of his new set of tyres with a 6.525. So it's about a 7/8 improvement over Corey McFarlane's best. Now, to be fair, this last lap through, Stenberg did a 7.7 and McFarlane did a 6.3. So fastest lap doesn't actually mean anything necessarily. Maybe it was more of a psychological ploy rather than I can do this for the next 10-15 laps. But still a little bit either way with that. The gap has come down. It's getting back down towards 9 seconds, the gap between the top two now. So McFarlane is carrying on again with that same sort of a lap. Stenberg's just put a 7.3 on the board compared to a 6.8 from McFarlane. So another half a second in that. Kurt will see that though. It's not like he won't be seeing that. He'll be seeing exactly his relative. He'll see that coming down. He'll be doing what he can to do something about that. But yeah, this is still a developing story. We've still got 20-something odd laps until we're likely to see any fruit sort of born out of this story. But yeah, still something keeping an eye on at this point.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on as that margin continues to change there. Oop, there's going to be a change for P5 here. Just managing to catch that at the right moment. Ryan Smith runs wide and has a moment at turn number 1, and McDonald threw in a flash. I was keeping an eye on them just to see how they were both tracking, because Smith was doing 2-minute 10s and McDonald was quite flashy along at 2:08s, and he's managed to get the that pass done there. So I'm not quite sure what happened to the Ryan Smith machine down there at turn 1, but we're about to find out. I think he's done a Brent Foley here from a little while ago, Rhodey, and let's hone in and look at it. Yep, certainly has. He's gone very, very wide, and that was all that McDonald needed. He was through in a flash.
Yeah, it was maybe for Ryan just a little bit of a look in the mirrors, just maybe threw him off his game, or I have heard a few drivers mention whether it's a setup issue or whether it goes deeper than that, they've had issues with the predictability of the car under brake. Sometimes they'll brake at the exact same point, lap on lap, and get different results, and maybe for Ryan that was what happened there. Either way, that didn't take what was a pretty clean run, and maybe that was delayed commentary curse, given we talked about how well he was doing. But he is still running about the same sort of pace with McDonald. He's not running away with any great margin as of right now, when he's still got a...
Foley having a go. Sorry, Rhodey. Foley having a go at the chase on Noah Tara, and he gets it done clean as a whistle. So that was coming. So a few moves starting to be made at a couple of critical times. Foley's sick of sitting behind the rear wing of the 26, decides he wants to see if he can go and stretch the legs of this 074 Camaro a little bit more, and see if he can maybe edge away from Tara. These two have been locked at the hip. I'm a bit surprised, actually, Brody. I would have thought that maybe, Tara might have had some legs to be able to wander away in a straight line, or, across the top of the mountain against Brent Foley. But, or maybe he was keeping, a little bit of something in reserve for the last few, the closing laps of the race. But either way now, we're about to find out, was Foley, did Foley have something up his sleeve a little bit, or was Tara keeping himself a bit in check?
Well, it's one of those things, if you go purely off fastest lap, then advantage to Noah Tara. But I've been cutting through their battle throughout the race. Obviously, we've gone to look at what's happening on the front and then come back to where some of the actual action is going on. And it's always been that Foley's had a look. Obviously, we saw it when McFarlane got past, but also other instances where Foley's had a look, maybe he hasn't got past Tara at that point in time, but he's definitely gotten closer to the rear bumper. There's definitely some corners and sections where Foley's stronger, there's sections where Tara is stronger. This seems to be one maybe leaning the other way, although the gaps sort of seesawed back and forth there. But they're doing about, I think for race pace, they're doing about the same sort of times. They're achieving them slightly differently, but at different points of the stint, they're slightly quicker or slightly slower. I think it's probably for Noah, he spent the last 20-something laps basically with Foley and some of his stuff to get past. He probably just figured, look, at least based on my idea of my pace, I've probably got an edge over him. You know what, I'll let him lead for a little bit, see what happens.
Yep, but there you go, have a look at this. There was definitely a bit of draft assistance there for Tara, but I think he's just decided not to risk going for a move at this stage. Maybe there's a bit of fuel saving or something now going on, because this is the other thing in the equation too. The tyres and the fuel, the tyres get covered by the fuel going in, so that's not a problem. There's more than enough time for that to happen. If you can save a little bit of fuel though in such a tight battle like this, when you get to either that second stop or that third stop, potentially that could be, it might be up to a second on pit road sometimes, and that could be all that it is enough sometimes to, jump ahead and actually have a break, enough of a margin that, that your rival can't catch up to you in such a tight confines. So that time across the line, Foley actually a track cut for that one, and Tara with an 8.4, so that gives you an idea. It's roughly sort of an 8.4, 8.5, sort of roughly there, the times that they're doing, so quite a way off what the leaders are doing at the moment. That gap actually has stabilised back again at around about 10 or so seconds between the top two. Now, speed trap's also been something we've been keeping an eye on too, Rhodey, because we are seeing a few drivers that have actually ticked over or getting very close to, if not ticked over, that 300k moment coming into or heading down towards the chase. I think the top driver at the moment is Dave McDonald with 301. Brent Foley 300 and McFarlane 299. So he's probably maximum trimmed out on the wing. The race leader, Kurt Stenberg, he's only topped out at 290, but also he's been running solo for quite a while.
That and probably obviously stream to plan as well. Lewis Wedding also at 299. So a couple of guys that I think, especially in the cases of Foley and Tara, I mean, Foley spent all but the last 2 or 3 more laps jammed under the 26's rear wing, so that's going to help a little bit. If Noah had a good run out of the elbow, then Foley could carry along with that.
Yep.
And same position, Wedding's been passing his way up through the field, and McFarlane's, I think, more or less passed, or he doesn't say he's passed everyone, but he started off the back as a result of the qualifying, so he's seen, I think, every car in this grid and able to have a chance to get a little slipstream off each and every one of them.
Yeah. Well, Ryan Smith's actually starting to go backwards here because he's doing lap times consistently that are in the 2:10, so I'm wondering whether or not he is actually starting to conserve a little bit here. Aidan Williams is all over him as they head up and over the rise in Conrod Straight. He's got a little bit of purchase here heading into the kink of the chase, so Smith has to give him the space. That escorts him wide. He was too friendly at the end of the day. He's done what Fraser Clegg did, and he's gone straight on at turn number 21, which is the chase, and he's going to have to try and fish this car out of the gravel trap. Not only has he coughed it up to Aidan Williams, Brendan Ross has gone through. Fraser Clegg's now gone through. Here comes the 77 of Ethan Knight. He goes through, and Smith pits, and this is very, very early for a second stop. This is at the end of lap 23, so this is now going to be a long, long third stint for him.
Yeah, I think maybe in Ryan's case, he's at this point, well, I don't say he's committed to running a 4-stint race, but I think at this point he just needs a reset. Clearly, he annoyed with himself that he ran as wide as he did. He was too generous, and is possibly too generous on a racetrack. He was too generous there with Aidan Williams, and it cost him. Well, look at where Williams is now. It cost him like 50 seconds by the time he got back on track. I think he's just in to get some fresh tyres, maybe top the fuel up. Obviously, it's going to put him off kilter the strategy, but I think he needs to reset mentally and just get back in his happy space and get some laps down again. What this will also do is he's going to end up going a lap down because Stenberg's just exiting the final corner now. He has exited the final corner.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's going to pass him before he's out of the lane.
Yeah, so that compounds matters even more for him, doesn't it? So going a lap down, and yeah, and I think even McFarlane, would he actually manage to get past there as well? We're just about to see. No, not quite. So
not quite, but it wouldn't be too far off, I think, given the relative paces of both cars.
No, that's right. So it's really not that bad of a situation there as well. So Wedding now has found his way past Luke Speck, and of course, with the situation that unfolded in pit lane, with Lewis Wedding being caught behind the pit boom that he shares with Aidan Williams. He's unfortunately having to fight back from what happened a little bit earlier. So Ryan Smith's early stop has given them both free place and a couple of the others as well. The next man up the road is Curtis Egmanis, and he can see him. He's actually within visual range of Lewis Wedding. Go along with Cam here, heading down towards the chase. Can't quite see Egmanis into the distance at the moment. He's actually just going around there he is, just going up and over the rise there in the chase, and it's not that far away for Lewis Wedding. You can just see it, touch it, and go, you know what, if I can get past Turmo, then maybe a top 10 beckons, depending on how things are going, because currently that 10th place is being held down by Cam Rutledge.
Yeah, but it won't do for Lewis to get up to that point. I think Specky's also one, obviously, with his pit lane entry kerfuffle that he's got some time to try and make it as well. He's going to, I think, probably just take the back of Wedding and just try and get himself sort of dragged into the field. We have actually just passed the halfway mark of this race as well, starting lap 25. Well, actually, sorry, end of this lap will be halfway mark, but yeah, we're pretty close to halfway through this race at this point.
To be even more politically correct, halfway round the current lap, we will have passed the half-distance mark of the race.
Actually, I think at that point, if we're going for the leaders, then they're about to. Kurt Stenberg is starting lap 36. So we have now passed halfway.
Officially, yes.
Definitely 100%.
Yeah, we always talk about half-distance marks of things, and you can't have a 49 lap race. You can't have lap 24 and a half being the half-distance mark. So you just say halfway round lap 24, it is the half-distance mark of the race. We're officially into the second half of the race. So it hasn't been too bad a run so far. I think we've been racing for little, just over an hour, but the timing is sort of becoming a little bit of a drama for us at the moment, just working out, of course, how long we actually have been going in this race. Usually be up in the top corner there, but of course it's stuck at 0 because of the camera situation. So
yeah, we're about to tick over 55 minutes.
Oops, and I was about to say Spec just invaded a wall there for the moment, just on the timing. So we'll wait and see. He's come out the other side okay for the moment. So the race has settled down. So the top 6 or 7 spots have settled down quite handsomely. Fraser Clegg has now got a little bit of clear air, and he's actually starting to make some inroads into the back of Brendan Ross for what would be 7th place. So in actual fact, he's on a similar footing in terms of lap times to Aidan Williams, give or take a few tenths of a second. So, it's not insurmountable that, Clegg could probably get as far as P6, I would think. That's probably a realistic target that he could set himself right about now, given the pace in hand that he's currently got. And, of course, the fact that Clegg does not have to share a pit boom with anybody now, because his stablemate for the other night in Mitchell Steele-Allison was out on lap 1.
It was. I think that the way their race was going, there's a good chance, especially given the gaps in play now. You can't sort of read too much into the what ifs and the tea leaves of everything, but I think there's a good chance to say that that Steele Allison would have been at the least the stationary amount of time of a pit stop clear of Clegg. Well, especially given the assistance that Clegg had from his battle with Dostal that put him into the gravel chase. I think he definitely would have been clear that wouldn't have been an issue. But yeah, he is now definitely 100% clear of that one for Clegg, which does give him essentially an uninterrupted opportunity to really show what he's worth. And I know I mentioned at the start that he's an SCS car because they're looking at him, but I wouldn't be surprised if, he's a driver with no affiliations coming into the league, and he's a driver that's shown he's pretty quick. I would not be surprised if there are a few other teams trying to get number 1 on his list.
Yeah, I would say so. He's definitely got definitely blitzed them in the development series of 2 weeks ago, and I guess was on the radar. So everyone was interested to see how he would go in the Gen 3 machinery. And you know what? Being in the top half a dozen spots is not a bad place to be, especially after 1 or 2 races. It's certainly going to get some people's attention. Across the line this time around, Ross at 2:09.2, Clegg with a 2:08.7, so there's half a second gone just there, and looks like Ross was a little bit leery coming out of turn number 1, so that's going to hurt his straightaway performance up Mountain Straight. Go back to the Wedding and Spec battle, and 2 Camaros again still glued and locked together. I don't know what happened with the livery that was supposed to be delivered for Daniel Cox here, Roadie, because it's on my screen. It's the Camaro, the ASR Camaro default livery. I'm not sure what happened there.
I would suggest there's some files missing at your end then, because this is his season livery that got submitted a couple of weeks after the start of the season, because he raced with his old one the first few rounds, and then there was I think maybe round 4 or round 5 up that included his season livery. So potentially, I don't think it might have been a single livery up that I'm not sure, for that to be missing and everything else to be fine. But yeah, potentially some missing files on one or both of the broadcast PCs, so that's showing up as essentially a temp car.
It certainly is. So that will be something to be looked at in the future. Apologies to Daniel Cox. It's one of those things that I guess is stuck in under the radar somewhere and hasn't quite been figured out. So I'm sure there's some scrambling of notes going on to make sure that is dealt with in time for the next round, which of course is Adelaide, coming up in approximately 3 weeks' time. So hard to believe that the season's going to end so early for a change. Usually it goes well into, you know, the early first or second week of December. So just to give you I guess the heads up as to what's the situation at the moment. So Kurt Stenberg with a 9-second lead out in front. He's going to be set to collect the 300 championship points that are on offer. That will officially take the racing and the final, for the championship down to the last round in Adelaide, because we did say with Will Devonish unfortunately out of action tonight by no fault of his own. Power failure in the air is something that you do not plan to have. It's something that just happens. It's usually some idiot that's gone and hit a power pole and caused a kerfuffle in your street. Thankfully in the area where we are, there's all underground power, so that's not a problem. But in a lot of the older areas, that tends to be what happens nowadays. So because he had already dropped a 0-point round at Topor, he can't drop a second 0-point round, so therefore it's a net gain for Kurt Stenberg in terms of the points that he will make. And I think, Rody, you're about to have a look at I think at the point standings and just confirm. I'm not sure what the situation is for Kurt Stenberg, if he's already dropped a 0 round for not making all the rounds or not. I can't remember if he has actually missed a round this year.
So yeah, as things sit right now, Stenberg has already missed a round this year. He missed Barbagallo, which was unfortunate. That was his home round. It was unfortunate that he missed his home round. I think I remember talking to him. It seems he wasn't quite happy. He wasn't going to make it, but I think there was conflicts with other racing that meant he couldn't make it to there. So yeah, the leaders are running. Essentially, the points you see them are as they'll stay. They are both have both dropped a 0-point round, so there'll be nothing to change from a poor performance somewhere further along the line. So yeah, it will bring that down to a 138-point gap, which still for a lead battle with drivers that have been historically finishing in the top 3 together as the season has gone on. Although Kurt's had a little bit of a floaty performance here and there, but generally when they've been running well, they've been running in the top 3 together. Bit hard to mount, but there is 2 races there, and look, it's one of those things where, look, a DNF in one race, 150 points.
Oops, Brendan Ross. Oops, sorry,
Yep.
Brody. Brendan Ross has done exactly what Luke Speck did in the pit entrance area, and he's actually come off worse. He's actually skated through the sand trap like Craig Lowndes did, and in fact, Brendan Ross is out. So, what a disaster! We were actually we were with him at the time, and he was coming into the pit lane at the end of lap 28 for him, and he absolutely clouted the wall like Luke Speck did, and with such force that he's ended up having to retire the car through whatever damage it has been caused. Wedding now down the inside of Egmanis at the final corner, just past the scene of the accident that just unfolded. So for Brendan Ross, that is the free kick of all free kicks for Fraser Clegg. 7th place is now his, as easy as you like.
Yeah, that's it's probably a similar sort of contact, or it's in the right area of contact in front of the car. That's probably knocked an engine out for Rossi. That's really unfortunate for the way that's happened. I did do something not the same, something similar in Dev Series. I bottled it a few corners earlier in the pit lane entry and ended up doing about the same thing redoing in the track where I really didn't want to, and had to continue around for another lap. But yeah, even if you get back in, if you get back around and get back in, it does kill the race. But I think in Rossi's case, yeah, I think the engine itself was dead. So no amount of remedial action in getting out there and doing another lap or trying to get back around the barriers and do anything for him. And that's really unfortunate. Really good run for Rossi. It was going to be probably a top 10 finish and some good, obviously some team points in his substitute role at PBF, and that all goes away now.
McFarlane in at the end of lap 29 as well, so that puts Foley and Tara temporarily up into second and third place, as we're now starting to see the second round of stops here. And for Brendan Ross, unfortunately, he can't plead the 5th for that one. That is all on him, that little error. So keep an eye on that, so we see on our timing screen and see that David McDonald has also made his way into to pit lane, and McFarlane going out. Fraser Clegg now goes through. So that is just a temporary positional change, but he'll be in the next lap or so. So that's 4 retirements now in this race. So still Allison lap 1, Zach Brown I think about lap 2 or 3. Brandon Dostal following the drive-through penalty that was issued, and Brendan Ross who via the accident. Donald the only one in the pit lane. Aidan Williams now up into 4th place, so that's the man that we'll be keeping an eye on now in the gap between him and Fraser Clegg. Currently it's around 7.5 seconds, so with well over 16 or 17 laps to go now, actually a bit more than that, closer to 20 laps to go, there's going to be an interesting fight between the two of these, because they've got one more stop coming up, or a stop coming up, and then one more guaranteed after that. Seems to be the favoured approach, the 3-stop strategy. Race leader's going round again, so he's going quite well. What's going to happen in this little battle is, what do you reckon, Rhodey? Do you reckon if you know a Taro, do you go for the undercut on Brenton Foley? Do you box opposite? Do you follow him in? Do you think you've got something in hand? Because the gap has pretty much stayed the same as it was when they were the other way around as well. So I don't think one or either of them have got an advantage over each other at the moment. So you've got to do something a little bit different, in my line of thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on sort of where the thinking is at. I imagine very much, given that the way things are running, at least on sort of times, that only one of the two of them is going to have a chance of a podium spot. Both going to want that rather than just being, finishing 4th and 5th with points. Not that necessarily is a difference of consideration. I think realistically, Tara's going to want to stick with Foley. I think he's getting a good run and probably better run for a lap, just following around at a good distance, whereas being slipstream, but is still able to make all these apexes. I think that's just sort of where their racing has been good. I think that's sort of what Tara's going to want to do. I think, to be fair for Foley, he's still got an hour left of racing, or just under an hour left of racing to go. We're on lap 31. I don't think he's going to want to do any of that solo. It can get pretty boring out there by yourself. He's got a really good opportunity to have a
yellow flag
up for someone.
Oh, it's Ryan Smith. Yeah, just as we saw him past, as if they were just going past the scene of the incident. So looks like Ryan Smith in the number 60 Pussy sponsored machine is out of business as these two head down the mountain, and we're just waiting to get a bit of a readout as to, yes, it is officially a retirement for Ryan Smith. And actually we've got the replay coming up here as we head down towards closing stages of some of this. So here's what happened. Turned it into McPhillamy Park, and he was a little bit wide there. That's not too bad. And then turns it in there for the S's, and big moment. Carved violently hard right into the fence at the S's, and that's the end of the day for him. And I don't know what else I can say about that, Rhodey, other than meow, 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 meow.
Yeah, they're going to need, from what I understand, Ryan is running a different livery with some new sponsors for Adelaide, so maybe they're going to need a bit of money to come on board to repair that, because I reckon that the very least, that's a big bit of work on chassis, if not a whole new chassis, entirely just for one round. That was a pretty big wreck.
He's not putting some Brennan Carpenter back on the car again, is he?
No. I believe that livery has actually already been submitted when he's running for Adelaide. It's just the funny nature of it, that he submitted a livery planning on running maybe for Bathurst, and then the two Pussy energy drink cars turned up. Two. Dane actually had one running him as well, and he was meant to be running tonight, but last I heard, he was out and about and had a diff failure and is currently trying to repair that diff on the side of a highway somewhere. So good luck to Dane, but we will see him at Adelaide. He has actually got a livery plan that isn't the Pussy car. They've both got new liveries for Adelaide actually planned, but it won't be the Pussy car. And I think for this year at least, we've seen the last of Sabrina Carpenter on a Ryan Smith car. But again, one of those things. Next year, who knows?
Well, we've got our eyes on our race leader at the moment, who's currently on lap 32. And this is actually a pretty sort of decent run for him. I'm thinking he might actually be due to stop either this lap or the next lap, coming up to the back of Daniel Cox. And we'll get a readout this time. There's a Coxie into the lane, and Stenberg going around again. So getting some really good fuel mileage, actually, out of the Camaro, all things considered. So actually potentially could turn this into a 2-stopper by the looks of things, the way he's going. Be touch and go, I would think, to maybe make it on a 2-stop, as everybody else sort of seems like they're committed to 3. He was, of course, one of the last drivers to stop. I think it was the second last driver to stop in the first set of sequence of pit stops. So this is, I guess, doing maybe something a little bit different to what McFarlane's attempting to do here.
Well, yeah, if it's in Stenberg's case, if he can run out to, well, he's going to make it to the end of the next lap to be sort of achieving the same sort of mileage, or even he can do it for this lap, I suppose. But he's going to push out to the ideal split, going off of what Darren Lognan's so far been doing, was lap 17, lap 34, lap 51, which is point on that race. It's even stints pretty much to the end. And if you want to run a short stint, the last stint you want to do it to have a little bit of reserve energy in the car. For Stenberg's case, yeah, he's got about halfway through the lap, so we call it 9-10 k's left to run. If he can get to that point and get into the pit lane and still have fuel on board at the end of the next lap, then he's in a really good position to run his last stint as one stint and have this be his last pit stop. Whereas McFarlane's already into the lane a couple of laps ago. He's currently processing through the cars that are pitting. He's going back up to third. He's chasing Clegg at the moment. He's
right behind Clegg. We've got him on screen at the moment. Now, this is important too, because I think this might be what allows Kurt Stenberg to do what he's doing, because right behind Fraser Clegg, and who's doing a 2-minute 8.9, McFarlane did it a 7 last time around, and he's had to fight pretty intensely to be able to get past Clegg there and then move forward. So I think maybe that's why Stenberg's opted to take that particular avenue, while Corey was stuck behind some cars that were not quite in position. He's managed to put a little bit of margin on. We're about to find out, because here comes the Kingsley's Chicken #1 into the lane, and we're about to see what the margin is officially between first and second on corrected order when Stenberg comes out of the lane. So they have cycled themselves back to the top of the tree here, and while all that was going on as well, Clegg and McFarlane went past, I think it was Aidan Williams and one or two others that were in the lane, so they've been through as well. Foley and Turra, I believe, have both been in. The margin has actually widened a little bit here. So Foley with a couple of extra car lengths now in hand, actually probably close to a second, about a second margin as it sits right now. Turn into the helicopter cam, and down Conrod into the chase comes McFarlane. He's about to take that there. Now, still in the lane is Kurt Stenberg, and a little bit of lap traffic going past as well. He's now officially on the move as Clegg pits. So McFarlane at Murray's, and Stenberg now leaving the lane, and he's going to have a little bit of lap traffic to contend with a bit further up the road. There's Cox, and just in the back of shot there's McFarlane. So it's actually a net gain for Corey McFarlane. So Stenberg, I think, has tried to do something a little bit different here, and on lap 34, he can probably make it home from here, where McFarlane is likely to have to stop again. So this could be a very, very important bit of strategy about to play out for the #1 Camaro, Rody.
Yeah, the one thing Kurt's going to really dislike from this point, and look, the chances, I think, given the efforts so far in the last couple of weeks, that one's going to come out is pretty low. One thing's going to cool his run as a safety car. Otherwise, yeah, like he's got a 5-second margin that's going to probably continue to creep slowly down. Doing that won't help, but slowly creep down in favour of McFarlane catching him. But McFarlane's going to pit again, so McFarlane's got another 40 seconds he's going to make up somewhere. He's not going to do that in the time remaining. I think you struggle to do that at all, unless we're doing like a 24-hour race. So, yeah, very much at this point, advantage Stenberg. The only thing that potentially changes other than a safety car is, if McFarlane gets to Stenberg and if they battle and if something happens to Stenberg as a result, that's the only other thing that influences it. Basically, the only way that McFarlane gets a win from here is if Stenberg has to either pit again or a safety car comes out that, Stenberg, either way, I think Stenberg's in a bit of trouble. But I think if the safety car comes out, Stenberg stays out, and then he's at risk at the back end. Actually, no, that indicates Stenberg. I've just as on board with him. That's the quietest car I've heard all day coming through the chase. He's lifting and coasting. He's going to try and make it to the end from here.
Yep, I agree with you. I knew that it was probably likely to be something in that occasion if you're just keeping an eye on things at the moment. While saw Daryl Callaghan and a couple of others come into the pit lane, just noticed as well we'd lost Lewis Wedding in the last little while as well, so he becomes our 6th retirement of the evening. And that only means that there's a couple of drivers that are now 1 lap down, so Daryl Callaghan and Daniel Cox the only 2 drivers that are now 1 lap down. It's Curtis Igmanis who's the last car on the lead lap, but he's literally probably about 300 metres in front of Kurt Stenberg at the moment, so there's a bit going on there. Well, focusing on the sole remaining Luke McHugh racing by SES entry, this is Ethan Knight, so he's currently 9th place, and Darren Lognan, who's the next man ahead of him, coming down at the CRE electrical elbow. For him, oh, he's got the wall there as well. That's a little bit lazy. For him, he's got to be due to stop fairly soon again as well. And then he's another one of those drivers that's going for that 2-stop strategy. Although for him, quite a different take on the 2-stop strategy compared to Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, slightly different flavour of it. He's doing pretty well with it as well. Just a quiet run in the mid-pack, just really trying to make up some spots for it, given I don't think he's had too much enjoyment of the car, and so that's been his thing.
And if on Q?
Runs in on Q and the lane. That's sort of been his thing, and he's run through, I think, Dev Series as well at points, was trying to run the alternate option, trying to run some strategy on it. I think, I think, if I remember correctly, there was points in years gone past when Darren was running in Super 2 that he was throwing ideas at me here, there, and everywhere about, here's the Canada strategy, try this one on. These are the days where I was trying to take the championship title off of Matt Cecil, as opposed to this year where, based on my batch performance, I don't think I'm taking it off you. But he is another one of those drivers that, especially if the race gets a little bit mundane, which I suppose for him, his running it has been, that he can sort of try and spice up a little bit, try something different strategy-wise, and sometimes that plays off. The way things are looking at the moment, it's not really working out for him because it's meaning slower times for the stint than everyone else. But there's still potential for it to work back, and he is going to come out ahead of Daniel Cox. So actually, no, just behind Daniel Cox. We'll have someone to chase until the end of this, and he might be in a good step. We don't know how critical some of the others are around him on fuel, given when they were pitting.
Yep, so he comes out now, as you said, behind Daniel Cox, and ahead of Daryl Callaghan, and I think by a good handful of seconds actually ahead of Callaghan. So for Lognan, he's going to have some nice fresh tyres now, and probably the freshest tyres of anybody that's out there on the circuit, all the way to the end. There's Callaghan in the background, and then behind them was Foley, and I think it was Noah Turra then still sort of line astern. So doing the math, Rhodey, we need to work out, I guess, who's likely still to pit and who's still who can make it home from here. We suspect that the race leader, Kurt Stenberg, is going to aim to make it home from here. Question mark is going to be over Corey McFarlane. He's pushing quite hard at the moment, so our expectation is he will have to stop again. And that will put him in range of these 2 drivers that have already stopped for a second time. But we believe that these 2 have to stop again as well, Brett Foley and Noah Turra.
Well, I'm just going to see if I can have a look and figure that one out as to when exactly it was that those 2 came into the lane, because that's really the argument at this point. I think in the case of McFarlane, he's really trying to race for second at this point, rather than trying to race for the win. Yeah. Foley was in. Well, he had to be helpful with that numerical counts for the lap they were on. Scratch that. I won't be able to tell you. Not without sitting there and counting on my fingers.
No.
But the way they've been running, they'd probably do a little better if they're actually bunched up together again. They're currently using a bit more fuel running separately than they would have if they were together. But I think Foley's happy with the gap that he's got. He gives them a wiggle room. I get the impression that it might be close for the 2 of them, but I think the impression they might be able to make it to the end.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that pans out, but at the moment for Foley, this is the biggest margin that either of the two of them have had over each other since they were glued together at the beginning of the race. And I dare say a lot of this has probably come from how the pit stops potentially have played out. So that's the interesting one. Second, third and fourth, can they make it to the end, or do they have to stop again? That's the real question there. On the other side of the equation, Darren Lognan, doesn't have to stop again, but he's got a hell of an effort to be able to catch up. The next man in the queue in front of him is Daniel Cox, so he's actually not that far up the road. So, and we believe that Cox potentially has to stop again. And then ahead of Daniel Cox, it's Curtis Igmanis, and he's at the top of the mountain. So this might be a bit of a stretch depending on what Igmanis elects to do. But then you've got Speck, who he knows already had a moment coming into pit lane ahead of him. So he's got a wounded car, but also we don't know what his strategy situation is. Rutledge, we're not sure on him, whether he's maybe borderline. Fraser Clegg and Aidan Williams are a bit further up the road. Dave McDonald, I'm pretty sure all three of them have got to stop again as well. Pretty sure McDonald's the most definite.
Yeah, there's definitely a point where I would have had a whiteboard going and would have kept track of it, because it would be very helpful at this point. But in the slight muddiness of this race has been at points. It is still a sprint race. It's a 2-hour sprint race, but it is still a sprint race. It feels like a sprint race. It's hard to really break it up into individual sections to keep track of. But there's a few guys definitely looking at it from where I sit that are definitely comfortable. A few guys that I'm questioning, and then it's interesting to see the motivation of some of the drivers as to who they think they're racing in terms of where it is. Because that's the thing that might influence strategy as well. You might go for the fastest strategy, and most of the theory would go for the fastest strategy, but at the same time, if all you're worrying about is beating this one person, and you're already ahead of that person, you might go for a safer option. So yes. there's a few things that'll play. Basically, I think when we get to that sort of lap, to be fair, I think if people have to pit, I'm not sure if they're going to be pitting by like lap 40. They're going to pit probably like closer to the end than that. I think it's going to be. I'm not going to put this down to being one of our classic Monza races. I don't think it's going to be quite that up in the air until the end of the race. But I think if people are going to come up short, it's going to be like a lap or two short, and they might not necessarily have the forethought to pit 5 laps early to try and put more heat into the tyres.
That's it.
That said, these are our started off with our 20-somethings quickest drivers, there or thereabout. I'd expect there'd be a degree of forethought from most of them that, if I'm going to pit at all, pitting sooner makes sense because it means I can put more heat back into the tyres and push again. Yeah,
we just saw Fraser Clegg use the tyres to good advantage. He's now gone past Aidan Williams up into 6th place, so good move for him, and we just have to believe that these two drivers both have to stop again, along with Damon McDonald, who's some 16 seconds up the road in front of these two. So you can see as Clegg goes into turn number 1 here, and our camera flicks, it's at the top of Mountain Straight, so it's the full length of Mountain Straight for Damon McDonald, so he's got quite the nice advantage at the moment. I think he's probably pretty safe in 5th place.
Speaking of the advantage, don't notice the balloon slightly, so possibly a mistake from Tara somewhere in the last little while.
It's gone out quite a while.
2:09 the last lap, so small mistake there. It's ballooned out to 4 seconds now.
Yeah, so Tara's now started to lose touch with Foley, and then when you start to lose touch with another driver, you don't have that carrot, you don't have that draft, you can't be sucked along behind the car in front. Yeah, you can see the gap is quite comprehensively blown out here as well as they head on to Conrod Straight. The other part when it comes to some of these margins as well is, the one with Tara and Foley has started to blow out. The one for the two drivers in front of them, Stenberg and McFarlane, that was coming down at quite a fast rate of knots. So that actually has now started to stabilise. So Stenberg has started to respond to the fast lap after fast lap after fast lap that's being put in by Corey McFarlane. So the last time around there was only a 1/10 of a second difference in the lap time. At 2:06.9 for Stenberg plays at 2:06.8 for McFarlane, and the gap at 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, I think a good call for this one, and races always can be thrown, plenty of what ifs thrown around. I think for McFarlane, even if he qualified, I wouldn't say poorly, but poorly for him, say back into the 10, maybe that 11th that Dan Woodon was so unhappy about getting. maybe this would have been a different outcome, because he's shown that he's equal pace or pretty close to equal pace with Stenberg. The fast lap still is held by Stenberg, but it's we're splitting microns. It's 6.525 versus 6.539. If you're racing a car line astern, that's nothing. That doesn't matter. Last lap's through, you know, within more or less. He's been the faster car on track, not the fastest lap, but generally speaking across this race, McFarlane has been the faster car because he had to make his way up through these positions. But Stenberg's had the luxury of starting first and being able to just dictate the race.
Here goes McFarlane down the inside of the lap traffic. Cam Rutledge at the elbow gets that job done. So the gap now at 5.3 as McFarlane's had to wait a little bit of time over the top of the mountain to pass the Camaro. And he'll now chug along up and over the rise in Conrod and down to Chase. He'll have some side of Stenberg. There he goes, just in the back of your shot there through the Chase. So you can see his good friend, and he'll be giving Chase quite heartily, I think, here, but it'll be to what advantage? He heads down into final corner for the 39th time. 10 laps to go here in the Bathurst 300 for the round 11 of the ASR Supercars Championship. So we've gotten this far without safety car intervention. We got all the way through the development series race in the same fashion, and it was about this time that everybody was sort of breathing a sigh of relief because there was only 2 laps to go when we got to lap 40, or the start of lap 40 2 weeks ago. There was only a 41 lap journey. There's an extra 8 laps tacked on tonight because it was 250 Ks for the development series, and that was a slog. This one's 300, so do your rough math and work it out. At 6.213 kilometres per lap, well, you can work it out at home with the calculator.
Yeah, the one positive I'm seeing is that this race is running a little bit faster than I think we're expecting. We're currently at the hour 25 mark, about to go to hour 26. With what is it, 9 and a bit laps left to run on. That's going to be 18 leading up to 20, about sort of half an hour. Oh well, actually, sorry, get that back. We'll run about the 2 hour mark. Yeah. I think I was budgeting in my head for a safety car somewhere, which obviously we haven't had to make it to that 2 hours. But no, actually, the math does about check out. Yeah, but pretty good running, all that said, to get this far around a track like this. Granted, a track that a lot of guys have a lot of experience with, but a track like this without an intervention from the ASR Camaro safety car. Yeah,
well, speaking of Camaros and pit lanes, well, because that's where the safety car lives, Brent Foley's just pitted from 3rd place. So he had quite a nice margin over Noah Tara, and he's come out on track behind Damon McDonald. So we know that McDonald, having stopped early and performed the undercut early on against Ethan Knight and a couple of other cars, he's running up there in now 4th place, but we expect him to have to stop again, and that should elevate Foley back into position 3 by the time not only McDonald but also Noah Tara have managed to stop again as well. Now Tara's starting to come up on a little bit of lap traffic here just ahead. I think it's Cox and Lognan. It is indeed Cox and Lognan, so that's getting rather interesting as they head down Conrod Straight side by side, the purple Mustang and the Camaro, and Lognan prevails for the moment, but again, a couple of drivers on some different strategies. Oh, McManus, he's doing a bit of lawn mowing, so to speak, there, and he's going to lose 2 positions to the pair of them as he goes through. So 3rd driver this evening to make a mistake, it appears, at the chase. Let's see if we can go and get the old replay of what happened here now. Is this a mistake, or is this something a bit more sinister? Because down the hill here, he tried to go for a pass on spec, and he was well out of control. I think he actually got the curb on the inside of the chase there. That spat him off at a vast rate of knots, and I reckon he had to grab first gear and really clutch it hard to get it out.
Possibly, yeah. What that's done for him is, it's put him. Well, he was in a good little battle there, and he's caught the curb and got a lot of air off it, which has just twisted the car essentially. And, he was running to passenger as soon as it touched back down. He did a good job avoiding the wall and avoiding burying it too deep in the gravel, given the speed that he went off at. Yeah, it's dropped him back, so it is for a lap down now, and he's going to try and probably tack onto the back of Tara before he then kills off the pit to make a move back at the likes of Daniel Cox and Darren Logan, who were obviously in the battle we saw earlier. Specs now in a clear air out there by himself. He's actually chasing down Cam Rutledge in about 4 seconds to Rutledge, which, depending on their different paces, he could make up within the next 8 laps. Is unlikely, but that was probably the last chance Spec had for a good full battle in this race, and unfortunately, through no error of the drivers involved with each other, that's kind of all gone away.
No, that's right. We're getting some word through via Lewis Wedding in the chat that this man, Noah Turra, might actually be fuel saving. So perhaps that might be the reason why the gap had expanded out the way that it had. You'll get a bit of more fuel saving here being stuck in behind the Daniel Cox Camaro. So this could be a reason why. Apparently might have been a short fill, or maybe a little bit short on fuel for Brent Foley, which is why he sort of come in and maybe had to do a very short splash and dash to get home here. But does that then give Tara a little bit of ascendancy here, and that he actually might be able to sneak home into 3rd place? So we know that McDonald's got to stop again. With Tara now down at turn number 1, McDonald now down at the chase. He would be probably expected to come in fairly soon, I would think, because he's been going at quite the vast rate of knots, but he is going down now to Murray's corner, and I'll just have to, it's going to be a bit of a nail-biter, I think, here. We're not quite sure how on earth this is going to play out, if indeed McDonald is going to actually have to stop again, because he did come in fairly early in the piece, which put him off strategy compared to everybody else.
Yeah, no, sorry, I missed the last 20 seconds of that, unfortunately. So I needed to get a refill of water to make it through in this race. So I'll leave my comments there, because I make myself sound like an idiot if I speak any further. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So let's work it out. Rhodey hasn't had a chance to do his fuel numbers tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll wait and see how this all plays out. So as it stands, we believe Kurt Stenberg will go to the end. We're expecting that McFarlane might have to splash and dash it toward the end here. Brent Foley's already had to do so. You then take a look at the likes of Aiden Williams and Fraser Clegg. What's going on here? And with these two guys that needed to have potentially another stop as well. So a lot to digest in this race, and if you're only just catching up with things, it's been a night of interesting twists and turns in all of this. So we had a top 10 shootout that needed to be done after everybody pre-qualified. Everybody except for 2 drivers didn't get a chance to partake in the shootout. This man on screen here went to get ice cream and missed his turn, so he started 9th. And as Roddy called it, back to the old days of thunder. We're eating ice cream. And Will Devonish unfortunately lost power at home and was not only able not to take the shootout, but he was not able to take the race start. So it was a top 8 shootout rather than a top 10 shootout.
Yeah, so I just noticed Tara, it was a very minor faux pas. It might not have much of a bearing on the way this race plays out, although it does mean that McFarlane is safely... Nope, it's an issue again. I think it's damage to Tara's car. Something's not right, because he's missed both the last corner and the first corner pretty aggressively, almost like there's a flat tire or something.
Well, this is what happened. We've got the replay of it here. So he had a moment after coming through turn 22, I think on the gear change here or something. Did he sit it up on the curb? Oh dear, he sat up on the curb. Yep, and he's damaged the front end there. Oh, and somehow splits Loughnane and Daniel Cox there. And then, as you said, he thought it was a bit of a faux pas, and then it continued on here, and then he went straight on. Yeah, I reckon that car's got like a flat tyre or something's going on with the 26, because that definitely should not have happened at the corner. And if we continue it on for a little bit more, as you said, he had another little whoopsie down here at turn number 1, and keep an eye on that front. Yep, that's a front flat on the front right. So he's now got to carry that on a predominantly left-hand turning circuit for the rest of the lap. Oh, the 26 is stricken here, and he's going to cough up. And Dane McDonald's been in the lane as well, and he's pitted. Where's Brenton Foley in all of this? He's coming up to him right now, and this will be a very difficult moment. Tara's seen him, stays wide, and that's a disaster for the 26. So the contact with the fence has caused a flat tyre, and that's going to be won't be race over for Tara, but he'll have to come in. Now, he was already trying to fuel save. He'll have to come in and change that now. But now, where does that put him in the list? Clegg is not too far away. Neither is Aidan Williams, and Damon McDonald has already been in the lane, and he will be on the march. So this could get worse for Tara. This could be as far as 7th place that he could fall to.
Well, yeah. If he's obviously to come in, and even if he wasn't, well, I don't think he was planning on the way he was running, he was going to make it to the end. So yeah, this is an extra, whatever it takes him to get to, whatever he loses getting to the lane, then the time in the lane. It won't be much, I don't think. If he was good on fuel, he might top up a little bit of fuel, but mainly it's just going to be, I think it's going to be tyres, and if you get an AMS whether you actually need to repair damage to effectively remove a punctured tyre or not. But either way, it wouldn't take him too long, I don't think, to rectify this. It depends on any other damage.
It'll be a short fill.
He's there.
It'll be short fill. So there goes Aidan Williams. So this is now 6th place. The next one we need to keep an eye on here is where's Damon McDonald. All of this here. McDonald's going to get this easy. He's in the chase. So this is Tara now falling down to 7th place in the order. He might actually go a lap down here potentially to Kurt Stenberg, depending on where Stenny is on track with all of this. So this could actually, take him, he might even fall potentially into the clutches of a couple of other drivers that are in trouble. So McDonald now around the final corner. He will then move up to 6th place in the order. Yeah, Ethan Knight actually is going to unlap himself against Tara, so that's he'll be safe for this one. Through comes the 77. And he was the first car 1 lap down. So that just gives him a lap back against Tara. It doesn't give him a lap back against the race leader.
Actually, yeah, a very quick stop for Tara. He's come out just ahead of Stenberg.
Oh, yeah, he has. So there you go. So that'll be how all that unfolds. So a disaster for Tara. And you're right, actually, in actual fact, it was even a bit worse than I thought. I actually thought that he was a bit closer. Oh, and Tara has to, unfortunately, with the blue flags, he has to give that up. So there you go. So in actual fact, Ethan Knight now officially is actually on the same lap as Noah Tara, but Tara with the fresher tyres should be able to pull away here and sort this out and be able to at least solidify where he is in the order. And unfortunately, we're on lap 45, so with 5 laps to go, I think with where Tara is coming up here down to a metal grate, and then you've got McDonald who's at the dip up, I think that's as far as Tara's going to go. Barring a disaster for anybody in front of him, this is the 7th place is where he's resigned to finish.
Yeah, I think so. I think the one query I think for Tara, unfortunately, the car tyres do look good, but I'm not saying it's going to be impossible given the skill of the driver, but that car still doesn't look like to be having all that right. It looks like he's literally just taken what it was with fresh tyres back on it. I reckon there's still suspension damage with that car. It's still doing something not quite right.
Yeah, he's leaving a lot of margin for error. There's not a lot of confidence in there at the moment.
Yeah. So he'll be. I think he's got a good chance as long as he can stay out to the end of this race. He'll have a good chance defending for 7th. Ethan Knight is closing ever so slowly, but not in an amount to make too much of a difference. But otherwise, that's a really unfortunate run for Tara to get to this point. And look, credit to the likes of Ethan Knight. Yeah, the margin is closing down. Ethan has been running a very quiet little race. We mentioned it about the halfway point. He has been running a quiet little race, and actually Tara's in again.
Yeah,
so
Tara's in again.
Clearly, there was something with that car outside the tyre that is not behaving sufficiently for Tara to be happy with, and he's coming in again to fix it.
Yeah, I think what he's done is he's just decided, there's damage repair. He tried to probably ignore the damage repair and focus on getting back out onto the circuit to try and minimise the pain, but no, there's something not quite right with that car that he can't handle it for a little while. So there goes Rutledge as well, so that's a further spot lost. Specs now the next one that's going to come along. This is actually going to probably shuffle him well down the order. There goes number 13 as Tara pulls that car toward the pits there. The next one is Darren Lognan, followed by Cox, followed by Egmanis. So, this what's about to happen for the 26th. He's back in the lane at the moment. Got second camera keeping tabs on him. And these three, are they going to be able to round up Noah Turra in between while he's in having the damage repair. McFarlane did have to stop again, so we've just been keeping with all this chaos unfolding. He has had to stop again, and he's now 43 seconds behind Stenberg. So Stenberg's going to be able to make it out here and get away with it on the two-stop strategy. Turra now falls to 13th place, second last car on the lead lap. Sorry, second last car on the road, only ahead of Darryl Callaghan. But he might have enough maybe to try and catch the back of the three cars just ahead of him, maybe put a bit of pressure on, but unfortunately, because he's now lost a lap in all of that, he's really only got 2 laps to do it, not 3.
Yeah, so that's really, yeah. That's
heartbreaking.
It is, yeah, it is.
But what, mate, and to put it into, and I guess to put it into perspective, Rhodey, Brenton Foley and Noah Turra were very close in the championship, 3rd and 4th place, along with Luke Speck. I think they were right up there in the order. Correct me if I'm wrong with how it sits right now.
Yes.
Foley's the one that's the big winner out of all of this tonight.
Well, yeah, even with the discussions, and I know actually I've heard this, beneficiary from the current structure of drop round speak for and against it within successive weeks. The way things are going right now, that's all a bit of a moot point, because even with 144 points, he's in a drop, or he does drop from his effectively second worst round. This compared to, well, the people that Foley's racing, Speck's currently sitting in 9th, Mitchell Steele-Allison is out, Noah Turra is 13th. That's not, it's going to pretty amongst that group, is going to pretty well solidify that they're racing over 3rd place, and obviously put the race for the win down to the final round. But got a fast start from McFarlane, bit of a concession there for where he had hit the second time. He's just doing a sort of statement piece at that point. Foley's in a really good stead, and he actually better than he was. He probably feel very chuffed out of the, not so much chuffed given that 2 of these came from DNFs or from big accidents, but he can feel pretty well, pretty happy with how the results of tonight benefited him, and he'll be in probably a slightly better mood come in terms of the season-wide aspirations coming into Adelaide. Yeah, I think so too. It's not over for the last spot inside the top 10 either. Cox and Igmanis are eyeing off the two-stopping Darren Lognan, and he's got his work cut out for him here on some aging tyres, and these drivers that have stopped 3 times and are all over the back of the number 31. They are going to give him a very hard time, and Noah Turra is about to join them as we are keeping a few tabs here. We've got the race leader, Kurt Stenberg, is about to come across the line and start with an ultimate lap. So with everything happening in the field, a couple of battles have come alive in the last handful of laps as Turra's pushing very hard to join this group of 4 cars on the screen here. And, well, he's now pretty much right on the back of them. You can see here from the onboard, he's got full sight of the sister car in the sister stable of Curtis Igmanis. And I dare say he'll try and maybe get a nice run down Conrod Straight here and maybe round a couple of them up as we go. So Lognan leads them down, so Mustang out in front of the Camaro, and then the 2 CRE opposite team entries here. Turra firmly in the draft. McManus there. He won't want to give him an inch here. He'll be wanting to make sure he makes him earn this, because there's plenty of points on the line, the championship at the back end of the season here. They're all fully committed through the chase, and Turra's going to go the long way round here, and he gets one of them. He gets Igmanis pretty comfortably at the end of the day, and then the next one is going to be Daniel Cox, who he thinks about to move down the inside here at the last corner. And in actual fact, Cox was a little bit wide. That's going to give him a bit of an overlap here and a bit of a decent run. He'll be slightly offline for the first corner, but he'll get the slingshot here. He can get a good run out of here. He might just get Lognan up to Griffin's Bend. Yeah, well, it's that's the thing. It's a lap and a bit to go. Actually, just under a lap to go for Kurt Stenberg, which means that I don't like. Well, yeah, actually, I don't like his chances. He's up alongside right now is Noah Tara on Darren Logman, so I don't think Darren's going to hold on to that one. And he would have glimpses there of a top 10 finish for a little bit there, which, given his roll of the dice on strategy, would have been a pretty good payout. As things sit, he's still going to finish 5 ahead of where he qualified, so that's a pretty good run. He has still got essentially 2 laps, a lap and a bit, yeah, 2 laps, to hold off Cox and Egmana. So I think the advantage for Logman is they do seem to be in similar states of tide where he's at. If they're faster than him, it's not by much, and it's not really an effectual speed difference given how tightly they're running.
No, exactly. But it's still going to go down to the wire, I think, for these guys here. So Tara's now managed to get up to 10th, and he'll clear away here with some better tyres on the car, and of course the suspension fixing whatever happened to happen there. We are on the final tour for the race leaders. So the top half a dozen cars on the lead lap. This man has led the way. He's led every single race lap so far tonight. He has, unfortunately, the only thing missing from the equation is the fastest lap of the race. So not quite going to be the Grand Slam, but what can you say about someone who has had an affinity with this place over the years in ASR, Rody?
Yeah, it's what's going to work out to be the best part of a 40-second win, although McFarland's doing his best to bring that down right at the back end of it. Yeah, it was. He made his statement piece very early in pre-qual, and it was a unique opportunity to make that statement this early on in proceedings, given that normally practice sessions early in the week aren't counted as official and don't really hold too much weight. But yeah, for Stenberg to put in the 5 when those behind him were only managing to really sort of strive for the 6s, it very much sort of set the tone for what tonight would be. I think had everything gone not to plan, but maybe as everyone had planned, different structure behind Kurt Stenberg. I still get the impression, based off of Will's pace, that he might not have been able to hold a candle to Kurt Stenberg over the length of the race. Definitely in a battle with a good start, maybe be able to keep with him, but I think over time Kurt will have pulled away. As things sit with who he had to race, McFarland started off down the back. Foley's had a very admirable run, but obviously not quite on pace, and Taro's obviously run into issues very late there, but even then wasn't quite able to run Stenberg. So the number 1 will be taking the win at Bathurst at our longest race of the year, and that's 300 points to Kurt Stenberg, and that brings the title fight to Adelaide.
Certainly does. What was looking set to be a just keep the night going and to wrap up the title with a round to spare for Will Devonish, unfortunately turns to despair with not being able to take the start tonight. So the title fight will officially now go down to Adelaide in a wild couple of hours since pre-qualifying happened. Corey McFarland, he's going to slide and skate his way around the last couple of corners to second place on the road. And he'll be in arrears by around about 20 or so seconds, I think. It's looking at the live timing, actually just waiting for it to finish updating itself. It's going to take a little bit of time for that to happen. We'll come back to that and see what happens. Brenton Foley weathered the Noah Tara storm early on, then managed to get ahead of him, and then had the ascendancy in the second half of the race. And unfortunately, Tara's self-inflicted mistakes pretty much has solidified a third place for Brenton Foley. It's been a while since we saw Brenton Foley on the podium, let alone a podium at Bathurst. So the 074 will return to the dais for what seems like an eternity at this place, and a very nice drive from him. Fraser Clegg, I'll tell you what, he wasn't far off the back of Foley at the end of the day, only around about 10 or 11 seconds. So he's, again, someone that's going to be very mindfully in the forefront of a few people's minds for a drive next year. Aidan Williams to 5th, and around the final corner for him. And Damon McDonald, the next man on the lead lap, in 6th place, and he's about to cross the line in the next few moments or so. That's the top 6. They were the last cars that were on or the only cars on the lead lap at the end of the day. McDonald home in 6th, Ethan Knight home in 7th, and Cam Rutledge in 8th. These guys were both 1 lap down, and then they were followed by Speck and Turra, Egmanis Callaghan, and Daniel Cox. So at the end of the day, Logden managed to outlast Egmanis and Cox, but then somewhere along the line, Cox lost a further spot to Daryl Callaghan.
Must have been a late pit or something, or some damage that he missed.
Yeah, something quite unusual there. The retirees in order of retirement: Mitchell Steele Allison lap 1, Zach Brown about lap 2 or 3, Brandon Dostal after the first round of pit stops, Brendan Ross with the Craig Lowndes moment, just a little bit worse at pit lane entry, Ryan Smith with the big moment heading into the S's and the dip up, and then Lewis Wedding unsighted, retired. We just noticed he was in the garage. We don't know what quite happened to the 89. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the longest race of the night, and the longest race, in fact, of the season that we have just completed here. The second last round of the series, and I'm not sure, Rhodey, after that one, you and I probably both feel that yes, there is a bit of a moment with all sorts of things to digest out of all of that.
Oh, there is, yeah. The one bit I'm as a broadcaster, my role is to be impartial, and my role is to call it as I see it. But I will be lying if I said I'm not a little bit excited now that the championship fight, even though it's 138 points to make up, will be going to the final round and will actually be something we will call on the night. Given that the other two championship fights this year feel a little bit more like just a tick box, just a sign at the bottom of the piece of paper, rather than any actual fight involved. Partially given through my own performances in Super 3, and also the other side of the coin of Dan McDonald's pretty strong performances in Super 2. He's actually planning on running two different cars at Adelaide, which shows the budget that team's had, which would match pretty well with the pace he's had all year. But it's nice to have a championship fight that goes down to the end. Not nice that it went the way it did, that it took a suburb wide or area wide power failure for Devonish to record a second 0-point round this year. But I think for Devonish, it probably is a little bit of an incentive, I suppose. Not an incentive, but it provides a little bit more value to the championship as well. And that he gets it not only through racing for it at Adelaide, but he gets it with 2 rounds to spare, essentially. But otherwise it spiced things up a bit. It, obviously, the way things work out, actually, thanks to the points on offer, it was just enough that Foley doesn't actually pass everyone else in that battle pack for third. So Foley's currently sitting fourth, and he is still, what does that work out to be? 61 points behind Spec. But look, if same sort of results at Adelaide, and that could change as well. That could turn the same sort of way. And Tara and Steele Allison now picking up the pieces. Unfortunately, they're comfortably clear now. And the rest of the top 10 to shake it out from there at this point now is Egmanis and McDonald in tied actually for 8th position. I think it goes back to McDonald potentially on countback for best finish, but we'll check that throughout the week. McMurrell's missed out tonight. First time he's been out since Gold Coast. He's still 9th, and Lockie Lock also out tonight, but he's still in the top 10.
Yeah, certainly is. So that's a good bit of a quick summation of everything that heading into Adelaide. But we've got 2 of the top 3 here, Rhodey. So why don't you start? You can pick who you would like to start with.
Alrighty. Well, I can start either end, and we can hope the one in the middle turns up. But I think I'll start bottom. Will go up. So, Brenton Foley. Pretty good run in the end to get yourself up to third. Obviously, coming into tonight, I think you were perhaps of a mind that the top 3 was going to be an unattainable position. But you played the game as it was handed to you, and in the end, you managed to take home the 3rd place.
Yeah, well, top 8 was the goal, and after not having a super flash day today, to pull it home in 3rd was very happy about that. And God, that was the best car that I've had at Bathurst since 2019. So I can't thank Rossi enough. He made like 2 little tweaks in practice, and it just really hooked it up. And yeah, can't thank him enough for even sticking around and coaching me through the last part of the race. Yeah, overall, absolutely stoked with that result.
That was good of Rossi to stick around as well, help out with that. You had a pretty good battle the entire race up until to the last 10 laps there with Noah Taro. You guys were basically running identical times, and you basically took turns to be the lead car across those first two stints. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the mistake I made was actually passing him in the second stint, which kind of let him sit behind me and save fuel. So I knew that I couldn't make it with classic me not getting my fuel numbers right mid race, but I knew I was 2 laps behind, and if I'd come out in that third stint ahead of him, I needed to make sure that I stayed ahead, so he couldn't use my draft to save that fuel. And yeah, the plan worked, and I needed the splash and dash, so I jumped in and grabbed some tires just to be safe. But yeah, I wasn't hoping he'd crash or anything, but I was trying to apply the pressure enough that he couldn't just cruise it home with saving fuel. He actually had to sort of push and save fuel at the same time, and yeah, definitely not complaining about the result.
Absolutely. And I say the other thing that has done for you as well is it's tightened up the fight for third outright in the championship. You are now tailing Luke Speck by 61 points. So that's worked out pretty nicely for you as well. Coming into Adelaide, obviously, that's going to be your chance to try and, I wouldn't say correct that order, but to try and put the pressure on to Luke Speck and keep Noah Taro at bay. What's your thoughts?
Oh, love Adelaide as a track. I've had success there and also had some terrible results there, so it's a mixed bag. But that's the nature of Adelaide being a tough street circuit. But it's a lot of fun, and I'll be trying my best to catch him for that position in the championship, and maybe send the Camaro off with a good result, not knowing what we're going to be driving next year.
That's well. To be fair, we were discussing Ports of 26 today, and I think the common theme out of tonight's broadcast is 26 is a discussion for a later point in time, so we can shelve that discussion for Adelaide or potentially later on again. But for tonight, finally, great work to pick up a third place and some very crucial points at the back end of the year, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time.
Thanks very much, and appreciate all the work that you two do in the box. Thank you.
And switching over to Kurt Stenberg, I don't think we're going to hear from Corey, unfortunately, but he had a pretty good run of his own. Kurt Stenberg, similar outcomes for you. I don't think you were expecting to come out of tonight with a mathematical chance of taking the championship at Adelaide.
No, I'll be honest, I did not expect that. I expected the year was done. So tonight was all about winning the race. So and getting the result in the big one.
Absolutely. Well, you did that. As we mentioned, you didn't quite do the Grand Slam. Corey McFarlane did actually manage to pop you at the end for fastest lap by a couple of tenths, although I think pitting an extra 2 times over you and getting a couple of quick stints in will help with that. But yeah, you kind of had what you needed. You got a pretty comprehensive 2-stop run in there and was able to keep with it on the times. I imagine you're not going to give us any secrets, but how do you do it?
Well, I'll be honest, I did a bit of setup work last night and it was all about 1 lap speed. So I knew we had the pre-qual this week. I wanted to be last in the shootout. I haven't had a pole for a while, actually. And that's one thing. I was like, I want pole at Bathurst. And I was very surprised that I was the only one in the fives. I expected other people to be there with me. And that's why I pushed to be as quick as I was. And yeah, I honestly, I thought I was pretty quick last year. I scrapped last year's setup immediately after 2 laps, and I dragged what I had at the bend out, made some more changes, and made it pretty wild to drive. I'll be honest. I found this car just understeers ridiculously, but I found a way to make it not understeer, but it was edgy to drive on throttle, which you probably would have seen in the shootout lap. And I thought it was going to be a hell of a race car, but it was actually pretty good in the race. It was actually pretty stable, but obviously I didn't really push it too much. We ran the strategy to save the extra lap, so I was clutching in probably first 2 stints quite often, and I saw what Corey was doing, but it never really phased me. And then last stint, I did have a push for the fastest lap. I you thought that he might go faster and beat me, but I actually hit the inside wall, Tony D'Alberto style, with about 4 laps to go at the elbow, and I was stressed from that point onwards and went, yeah, don't try any heroics here. The lead's ours. We just need to get to the end. So It's a shame I couldn't get the Grand Slam. It was the goal, but yeah, I didn't want to have any mistakes. I thought, yeah, that's too close to call. We need to just be sensible about it and bring home the win. So that's what we did.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you did what you needed to in the end, which, to be fair, maybe wasn't what you were planning at the start of the night, but you got your win, you got your pole, and now you can look towards Adelaide. It is still a 130-point margin, so by no means is it going to be a who wins situation. But and now that you've actually got a bit of a look in at a championship tilt, what's your thoughts going at Adelaide?
Well, I thought I'd have no chance. I know it's not normally a good track for Wheel. This is why I kind of thought this is probably my last opportunity to win at Bathurst and get a pole. But I guess now we go there. We were much faster than we thought. We were pretty fast at the bend. We go there and we just try and win and see what happens. I mean, honestly, we need a DNF from Will to have a chance. Like, that's the thing. But all you can do is put yourself in the best position, win the race, and see what happens. You don't, like, I didn't know. I thought Will would be up there with me tonight and run second if he didn't win. So hey, you can't predict these things in racing. It sucks for him. He was talking to him during the day, and yeah, it sucks for him to not have a race of it. But hey, we go to Adelaide and we see what happens, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, great work by yourself tonight. Obviously, bringing in what you needed to and getting a good result out of tonight as well. And we'll catch you in a few weeks at Adelaide.
No worries. And thanks, guys, for the stream. I love your work.
Thanks, Denny. Thanks, Foley, and thank you, Rhodey, for all of that. It's I guess it's a bit of an interesting feeling now. We're at the end of the longest race of the season, and in 3 weeks' time, we didn't expect that we would mathematically be getting ready to call a title-deciding fight. But unfortunately, that is the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, as we said, please tune in for the final round at Adelaide, which is on November the 7th. It's now all of a sudden turned into something that is going to be quite worthwhile watching, and I'm sure there'll be a number of development series drivers that are going to be clamouring to get in for potentially a special cameo for that one and turn out to make the event as good as it possibly can be. So from myself and Rhodey, thank you everybody for tuning in. Please drive safely. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.